Would now like to call to order the very first meeting of the Lynchburg City School Board for the year of 2023. And I would like to say Happy New Year to everyone. And this is an extraordinary opportunity for us to deliver public education in 2023. We've never had the opportunity to do that until we started this quarter, the third quarter. And I'm thankful to Dr. Edwards and the entire governance team for your support of Lynchburg City Schools. With that in mind, I do want to report to the board tonight that Dr. Sharon Carter will not be with us tonight for personal reasons, but will be briefed on all of our deliberations tonight. With that having been said, Section B of our agenda is for the approval of the agenda. And the agenda has been featured on board docs for all of our board members. What is the pleasure of the board to approve the agenda tonight as presented?
I move we approve.
Dr. Day has made the motion, seconded by Mr. Andrews. Any further questions or discussion on the approval of the agenda? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
School Board Member Ms. Preston.
Yes.
School Board Member Mr. Trost.
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Sinha.
Yes.
Vice Chair Dr. Brennan.
Yes.
Chair Dr. Coleman.
Yes.
Dr. Gupta.
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Day.
Yes.
School Board Member Mr. Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We will now stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank each of you. And just for a few seconds, if you will, I would like us to pause for just a moment of silence and reflection as we send our encouragement to the Newport News Public School Division, to Superintendent Parker and Chairman Lisa Schul's Law as they navigate through a very delicate matter in their school division. Would we please just take a moment in reflection and silence? Thank you. We now move to Section C, which is an exciting time for us tonight, and we will have special presentations, and I'm going to ask that Dr. Edwards would lead us through item 1.
Okay, so it is always great to see a packed house at our school board, which is a good thing that we have so much community support and some special guests here tonight. But tonight we're going to start off with some new faces to Lynchburg City Schools. As you all know, we have a new executive director for the Ed Foundation, Ms. Dawn Wise. And we'd just like Dawn to come up and just say hello so that everybody can put a face with
Welcome.
a name.
Thank you for not letting me follow the kids. That was something I was very excited to not have to do. So, and I'm so excited and joyful to see all of you. There's so many familiar faces here. I have been doing this work in different arenas for over 20 years, and I wake up with joy every day that I get to do this work here with all of you. You all such champions for our educators and our students, our parents, our caregivers, and I walk around with a smile every day. So I just want to quickly just give an overview of a couple of things that the foundation is going to be up to in the few months, and also a little bit about myself as well. First of all, the Lynchburg City Schools Education Foundation was created in 1985. Its sole purpose was to provide funding above and beyond public revenues, and that's still our mission and our existence, the reason why we're in existence today. And we have many programs. I will not go over all of the wonderful things that we do, but once again, that is our mission, and we're going to become more strategic in that mission as well, particularly focusing on the gaps and the needs and the services that the school division, its administration, its teachers, its staff really needs, and trying to do that in a more immediate time as well. A little bit about myself. I was born in Virginia Baptist. I told my selection committee, they said, tell me a little bit about yourself. I was like, born in Virginia Baptist? So I've been here all of my life. I actually graduated from Amherst County High School, so I'm not a Lynchburg City grad, but my husband is. He graduated from Heritage High School, and we are champions of this school division. I've been working with the school division in various areas for over 20 years. Education quite literally changed my life. I was a product of generational poverty. I was actually a coal miner's granddaughter. My grandparents came from Grundy here to Lynchburg for a better life. And my parents actually deserted me when I was in high school, and I ended up living with grandparents and friends and barely graduated from high school and ended up going to community college. Barely survived that. Actually flunked out my first year. And then after several years of handling 3 jobs and bartending and waiting tables, I realized that education was the only way I was going to make a difference in my life. And then I was going to get out of poverty. Was living it literally every day. And went back to community college and really got serious about it. Ended up getting really good grades, and all the F's became A's. Went to the University of Virginia and realized that education was not only changing my life, that I wanted to be a teacher. I truly thought these teachers were going to change my life, and they did change my life. So I ended up going to Mary Baldwin and getting my, going through the entire Masters of Teaching track. Did my first week of student teaching at Lincoln Middle and realized I did not want to be a teacher. $40,000 a student loan. Thank goodness I knew that I did not have the heart for it, because it takes a special person to be a teacher. And I still had such a love and a passion for the profession itself, for making a difference in the kids' lives. So I knew I needed to devote my life to it in a different way. So continue to do that work in different nonprofits throughout the years and have landed here. And I truly am a champion of the education community. So with that, we are about to enter into strategic planning at the foundation and really are going to focus on how we can meet your needs, how we can meet the Lynchburg City Schools needs. And I've had many conversations with the administration already, knowing that your needs are great and they're changing every day. So we're going to make sure our strategic planning reflects that, our funding reflects that. We're going to make funding easier for you as well. We also are really going to concentrate on the teacher, lifting them up, teacher retention, teacher recruitment. We're trying to get funding for that. We have funding for that as well. So we're working with the human resources to really kind of make that easy to give and to work with, making human resources packages that are available to teachers. And also the Fabulous Day of Wellness will be back as well. That's,
right.
I heard that was a lot of work, and that was the first thing I was like, we're not going to do that. And that's what everybody wants, so we're going to do it again. So we're working with the administration to make sure that happens, because we want to nurture our teachers, because when the teachers are nurtured, the administration is happy, the school board is happy, and our students are happy, and our parents too. So thank you for everything that you do. You're absolute champions. And I did cry. Anthony Andrews, you know I cry like crazy. So, I've cried many times with you. So thank you so much. I'm excited and overjoyed to be a part of this community, and great things ahead.
Executive Director Wise, first of all, let me tell you on behalf of the board, thank you for sharing that. And it lets us know the power of a story and the narratives that we can share to engage people in this meaningful work of education. That was absolutely powerful, and thank you for sharing. I do want to pause for just a moment to see if Mr. Trost or Dr. Sinha have anything they'd like to say. You are our reps from the board to the Education Foundation.
I'm not supposed to. Okay.
Oh,
Oh, we have a meeting set up
I'm
for
not
this
looking
week, so I'll have a report next month.
thank you. Mr. Trost, did you want to say
I am so overjoyed to have you on board helping with us, Ms. Wise. I know the selection committee went through a nice process, and I'm sure they found the perfect person for the job, and we're happy to have you and look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Let's give her a hand. And we go. All right, C2, the Welcome Partners in Education Co-Chairs. Dr. Edwards.
Yes, so hopefully you're getting a sense of it takes a village to really run an excellent school division, and we can't do it without community, without partners, without students, which we'll also hear from in a bit. but also in a new leadership role, although somewhat familiar, but in a new leadership role in our Partners in Education, which is another one of our tremendous supporters of our school division. So they have a new co-chair, or new co-chairs, I should say, and I'm going to invite them up, Mr. Nat Marshall and Miss Brittany Agard. Wow.
Thank you all very much. I've had the opportunity to meet and work with many of you, so thank you all for this opportunity. First of all, let me take off my pie hat and put on my United Way hat. You stole Dawn from us. But we are really excited. She's a great person, and I actually learned a few things I didn't know about her, so, but she will do a great job, so we look forward to that. Second thing is that I appreciate, even though having to come behind Dawn and the great things that she said, I am very appreciative of the fact that I'm not following these cute kids. And I'm going before your audit, so you guys are still there. So thank you all for that. Really, over the course of the last year and a half or 2 years, in fact, several of you all have been working with us in regards to trying to reestablish the pie. You know, way back in early 90s. You know, I said one that I've been around for a while, two that I'm old, but been working with pie since the Bob days, you know, and so we've done a lot of things, and it was just a top-notch organization pie was, and over the course of years it's changed and mutated and all, and over the course of the last 5 or 7 years, I guess the attention was elsewhere, but we really have over the course of the last 3 years really brought it back together. We really have looked at it in essence 3 phases. The first phase has just been to reconnect, you know, reconnect with the board, reconnect with the community, reconnect with those partners who are out there. The second part that we're going to work towards now is awareness, making people aware that Partners is back and that we are available to ensure that the businesses can help the community and the schools any way they can. You know, sometimes you think that you're only looking for money or you're only looking for people, but there's so many other things that the school systems can use, and we want to be that conduit that allows all those resources to be available to them. And then finally, phase 3 would be ultimately the collaboration, the growth, and then celebration of all the things. We did have the breakfast back in November, which was great, and hopefully many of you were able to be a part of that. And we just see this as a great opportunity for this community to really be at the top, at the very forefront of Partners in Ed. Right now, even though BWXT is the company I work for, and we're engaged with all the school systems, but as far as Partners in Ed is concerned, we're already at the forefront. You're doing better than, unfortunately, than the other school systems, but we can do so much more, and that's what we're looking forward to. Did you want to say anything?
Sure. I'm fairly new to the PI board. My name is Brittany Agard. I represent Centra. I work there in our student affairs department, so I felt like when I had the opportunity to join the PI board, this was so fitting because our main goal at Centra is to, have educational opportunities for students, and one of our big goals is more community involvement from just a big strategic plan, but also our office as well. And so I'm really excited about that. We're actually offering some summer camps to students this year, so we're trying to get that out into the community about health careers. So this just gives me a great opportunity to be a part of this board, to just see what the needs of the community are, and then also build our workforce, because that's what we all need and what our students need. I remember being a student not long ago and just wanting the opportunity to know what was out there and what existed, and so I want to be that liaison. Our board wants to be that liaison for the students. So I just thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come here tonight and share a little bit about it. I'm excited. I'm still fairly new, but I'm excited for what's to come.
Good. Well, first of all, before you leave, Nat and Brittany, I just pumped up because of the excitement and the enthusiasm that you bring in reporting to us today, and I'm thankful to the board, the superintendent, for putting this section in our school board agenda. At the beginning of the year, we are all clear on this one fact, that we're doing this for the kids. And who can help kids better than those of you in the community who have the skill sets and the time to help? And so it's just amazing. And thank you, Director Reeves, for all of your staff and workers with this. And I would like to yield to Dr. Sinha and Mrs. Preston, who are our reps, I believe, if you have anything you'd like to say at this time to them.
Well, only that we're excited about the opportunity of working with Partners in Education. Whenever I think of Partners in Education, I always think of that expression that we're all part of the pie. And we are, whether we're talking about students, whether we're talking about parents, and that means all of us have the ability to contribute something. My something is different than your something is, but it takes all of those pieces to make up the pie. And so we invite all of you, as members of the school board and as members of the pie board, to get involved, to find out what it is that you can do, because we all want to do the things that are going to help our children. So thank you both.
She said it all, so welcome aboard and looking forward to a good year with you all.
All right, let's give our pie. Thank you very much. I hope all of you who are with us tonight as our distinguished guests can see how determined this board is to work with those who know best and can help us to achieve successful delivery of education in Lynchburg. So thank you, both of you, very, very, very much. And if you don't mind, I think they both deserve another hand because we are excited about what you all are going to do. Intentional. Well, as Nat said, we now move on to C3 and the financial audit report. Dr. Edwards.
Yes, and we have representatives from Brown Edwards here who are going to come and share with us. The documents are available on the board docs for the public to follow along. They're going to give a quick summary, and am I turning it over to you all to introduce Karen or Ms. Kabazi, or straight to our guests?
I can handle it.
Go straight to Chris.
Okay, going straight to Chris.
Well, I could say that this might not be quite as exciting as the last presentation, but I'll do my best. I'll be brief. Positive news from us and our firm. So, good evening. I'm Chris Murray. I'm a director with Brown Edwards and Company. I'm the director on the audit for both the schools and the city's piece. I'd like to start by thanking Karen and her team for another successful and timely audit this year. This process begins all the way back in May, June timeframe with their preliminary testing, and doesn't end until November or December when we issue the completion of the audit. So I'll give you a brief overview of the documents that were mentioned at the completion of the audit. First being your financial statements, which are part of the overall financial statements of the city. Do y'all's relationship as a component unit, of course. Last month we presented city council, and as part of that, the city and the schools received a clean, unmodified opinion, which is the highest opinion you can receive. Another significant portion of the audit is your single audit of your federal funds. So that's looking at the federal money you're spending. So the city and schools combined with about $44 million spent in fiscal year 22. So as part of the audit, we looked at 3 grants, major programs for the schools. We looked at Title I, special education, and also the American Rescue Plan, emergency relief funds. So a total of about $14 million of funds were tested for the schools, and we're happy to say there was no findings or recommendations from that part of the audit as well. Finally, on your financials, there was a minor immaterial budget overage for one line item. As the Auditor of Public Accounts establishes tests that we have to do and we're required to look at them, one being the budget. There was one line item that was over by about 1%, but according to the APA, we have to bring it up in our written report. It's very, very minor budget, nothing material related to it. And as management provided a response, it was related to a few large unbudgeted transactions related to health insurance claims and whatnot, pushed it over budget. But overall, the entire expenditures was under budget. It was just one line item, and we're required to, by the APA, to put that in our report. Switching gears, we issued 2 letters, the first being a required communication. It's a standard letter to let you know what our responsibilities as auditors are, what management's responsibilities are. Finally, there was a new accounting standard. I don't know if you've heard of it, this GASB 87 related to leases. It's been coming down for several years. We quantified it, worked with management, and decided it was not material to the financial statements of the schools, so we passed on recording that impact. Finally, we issue a comments on internal controls. It's a value-added letter where we try to make recommendations, but we did not have any comments that rose to a level of significant deficiency or material weakness. So overall, very strong audit, and I'll take any questions you might have.
Members of the board, I'm so thankful for the strong audit report. There's utter silence in the room because they want to hear everything you had to say. And you have done a great job. Members of the board, any questions for our auditor?
You going?
No. Dr. Gupta?
So you mentioned you had suggestions you discussed with the administration. What'll be your top number one or two?
I think recommendation we made, there was a few adjustments we need to work in collaboration with management. So pulling together everything, the financials and closing out a year is, I mean, it's a daunting task. And as you know, there was turnover in different positions and whatnot, and getting acclimated with new people in their roles and turnover. So making recommendations on, following that, learning from what we worked with this year and applying it for next year is what the main area that we had this year. But there's different levels. There's significant deficiencies where we think there could significantly be an error. There's material weaknesses where things can rise to a material weakness level where we think your financials can be materially misstated, and it did not rise to any of that level. But the management letter, people think it's try to take it as we're trying to take shots at people, or some people think it's their report card, but we're trying to add value to the audit outside of just coming in auditing your numbers, and we try to make recommendations of things we see as from the outside with all the clients we work with. So it's more of a value-added tool, and that's what we want people to take it as. So.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta, and I'm sure the clerk has so noted the auditor's comments. Anyone else? All right, then we want to thank you for reporting out. Dr. Edwards, anything else concerning this?
No, I just appreciate that you're able to come and share publicly. You guys know transparency and accountability. Those are our words, and we want to make sure that we share the outcome of our audit, even the small immaterial finding as it would be, but it is something that we're working on, and it does have to do with health insurance, and you guys know how we're always trying to cover for that, and we have more plans for that. But we do appreciate the work that you do, and I just want to say kudos to the staff, because we did have turnover, and they did a great job of pulling together and getting everything that you needed for the audit. So thank you, Ms. Kabazi, for your leadership in that area, as well as Dr. Watercup.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Ditto that from the board. Thank you, sir. And strong audit report, board, and thank you very much. All right. We will now move to Section D of our school board meeting, which is pertaining to public comments. And I do want to acknowledge that persons appearing before the school board will not be allowed to campaign for public office or promote private business ventures, and should not use profanity or vulgar language or gestures, make comments about a public official or an employee that are not related to their official duties, engage in behavior that disrupts the meeting or intimidates others, or address the school board on issues that do not concern the services, policies, role, and/or responsibilities of the school board. Individual speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. A speaker representing a group shall limit their comments to 5 minutes. The representative shall identify the group at the beginning of their presentation. A group may have no more than one spokesperson. The total allotted time for public comments at school board meetings is 30 minutes, and public comments are served or reserved for the public to provide input. The board does not respond to comments, answer questions, or otherwise engage in discussion at this time. And to my knowledge, from the clerk, we have one person that would like to speak to us, Jeffrey Wooters, who would like to talk about the future of LCS. Welcome, sir, as a graduate. You're here.
Thank you. Well, I'm back. For those of you who don't know me, and also for those of you who do, let me reintroduce myself. My name is Jeffrey Wooters. I'm a first year at the University of Virginia and a graduate of EC Glass and Central Virginia Governor's School. Being away from Lynchburg for the last semester has given me the chance to reflect on my years here and the importance of existing in a strong, accepting, and diverse community of learners. I've been blessed to live in one of UVA's residential colleges, a space where each voice is uplifted, where different perspectives and experiences are valued, and where there are ample resources to ensure that each student can pursue their interests. At UVA, we support each other. We can come together, both in celebration and in tragedy, as one. And as the months went by, I came to realize this was not an altogether unfamiliar feeling. For the 13 years I was a student of LCS, we made so much progress on getting the fundamentals right, even as school districts around us have regressed. In the past year and a half, we kept mask mandates in place to protect our most vulnerable students. We haven't banned books from our libraries or attacked the right of LGBTQ students to exist. It is because we believe in that fundamental tenet, every child by name and by need to graduation, that myself and others can stand here and fight for LCS to be made even better, not just acceptable, not just good, but excellent. So I've been standing here in solidarity with faculty and staff as they fight for a fair wage and the right to collectively bargain, because I don't have to worry about the other things. I can trust in the capability of this board to make them happen, but that might be changing. A lot has shifted since I last spoke here. The state government is divided and Lynchburg has elected a new Republican majority on the city council. So I just want to remind you of a few things. People are going to stand before you at this podium, on the street, and in meetings to urge you to support parental choice in schools. And you know, that really sounds great. Who doesn't want parents to have more of a say in their child's education? But unfortunately, the guise of parental choice is just a way to sneak an anti-education ideology into Lynchburg City schools. They'll tell you they want to protect biological sex in schools, when what they really want is to declare open season on the peaceful existence of trans and non-binary students. They will tell you they want to protect their children from explicit content, when what they really want is to prevent the teaching of queer acceptance and alternate viewpoints in schools. And most insidiously of all, they will tell you they want parents to have a choice of where to send their students to school. And what they really want is to funnel taxpayer money out of public schools to line the pockets of private schools and individual donors, leaving public schooling a shadow of its former self. So if you have any investment in seeing LCS continue as a place where every child, regardless of race, gender expression, class, or orientation, has a right to good education, work so that we can demand you pay staff more, not that you protect our most vulnerable students from institutional harassment, work so that we can continue to debate the best choice of scheduling, the best methods of teaching, and the best way to mold LCS into the greatest school system in the Commonwealth. If you believe in any of this, you had better work to codify it now, because you might not get a second chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wooters, for your comments tonight. Madam Clerk, do we have any voicemails or any other?
No, sir.
Thank you. This concludes our public comment section, and we will now move to the next item on our agenda, which is Section E, Student Representative Comments, and we look so forward to this as well. And Dr. Edwards, we have some very special people with us tonight.
We do. We are continuing our guest student reps, where we're inviting students from other schools in the division, elementary schools, middle schools, as well as our 2 high school reps who always represent us well. And tonight we have the Lincoln campus visiting us. So we are going to start with Lincoln Elementary School, and I see Principal Dr. Right, and we have some student reps. The principal and vice principal and assistant principal are back there. Dr. G, wave your hand. And Mr. Hoffman, who is the assistant principal. And we have 4 students here, and please help me say your name correctly if I do not. So it's Elliot Weeb, is that correct?
No.
Oh, see? I love it. Tell me how to say it.
Elliot Weeby.
Elliot Weeby. Okay. All right. Ivy, and I'm not even going to try the part before Castro. So Ivy.
Ivy Odiambo Castro.
Ivy Odiambo Castro. Okay, I got that one. Thank you. Andrew Hubbard. There you go. We need that positive. Even teachers need positive reinforcement. And Mariah Harris. Okay, so these are our Lincoln Elementary School students who are going to share with us some things that are happening in their school, and I'm going to turn it over to you all.
Good evening, Lynchburg City School Board members. My name is Elliot Weeby, and I'm here with my friends Andrew, Ivy, and Mariah. We are from Lincoln Elementary School and are excited to tell you about some of the fun things that have happened so far this year at our school.
This past October, our school introduced a book vending machine. Students are recognized as Lion Learners and Lion Leaders. Each week, get opportunity to earn a special bookmark for doing something good, helping others, or for working hard in class. Students who earn this special bookmark go into drawing for a token that allows us to pick a book from the vending machine. Each week, 22 students get a token to choose a book. The thing I like most about it is that there's so many books to choose from and that you get to keep your book.
The book walk was a new activity that everyone in Lincoln Elementary was able to participate in. Students were able to read a book with book pages placed on signs along the Blackwater Creek Trail with their families. Students also had an opportunity to participate in the book walk with their classroom around the outside of the school building. There were fun activities about the book after we finished the book walk in the multipurpose room and our classroom. Kindergarten through second grade read I Went Walking by Sue Williams, while third through fifth grade read The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein with their family and friends. I hope we do this again next year.
Miss Byrne, our librarian, read a book called Pumpkin Jack to many grades during library time this fall. It's about a carved pumpkin that rots until the seeds from it grow into a new pumpkin plant that following year. The book taught us about plant life cycle of a pumpkin. We have our own Pumpkin Jack at school, but some of us call it Pumpkin Splat. It's an ongoing experiment in the library that we get to see each week. Pumpkin Splat is rotting in its container. This spring we'll move it outside to our courtyard, and hopefully next fall we will have grown another pumpkin.
The LES Sing-Along is an activity that we do before winter break. It's been a tradition at Lincoln, but due to COVID, we were not able to have it last year. Students get to watch and participate in singing different songs. During the 12 days of Christmas, teachers participate by dancing out the song on stage. I'm glad we were able to bring this activity back to the school this year.
First graders took a field trip to Amazement Square this past fall. In kindergarten, we'll be going to Amazement Square later this year. Fourth and fifth grade students were able to take a walking field trip to Lincoln Middle in December to watch the play A Christmas Carol.
Fifth graders had the opportunity to go to Sequest and Mayer Art Museum at Randolph College. One of our favorite days was DeWitt Day in November. Mr. DeWitt has been the movement education teacher at Lincoln Elementary School for the past 10 years. Mr. DeWitt taught us fun movement games like Gold Rush. He retired this fall, and on DeWitt Day, we dressed up like Mr. DeWitt to celebrate his retirement. We would like to thank the LCS administration and the Lynchburg City School Board for giving us a chance to come tell you about some of the fun and exciting things that we have taken place at our school so far this year.
Wow. My. Outstanding. All right, Dr. Edwards, we've got another group.
Yes, we do. So Lincoln, please stay. We're going to take a picture of both groups at the end and have a special group for my student presenters. But I hope you see the power in the young voice. We heard a lot of adults talk about how they support our schools, but isn't it wonderful just to hear from our students? And they also mentioned some partnerships that we have with community groups, again, going with our theme of community involvement. But on the other side of the parking lot, we have the other part of our Lincoln campus. Dr. Dills is here with Lincoln Middle School, so we are excited to have our middle school. And I believe, all right, ladies, you're on the same rule. I have to say it correctly. So is it Giselle Holloway?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then Shay Carthens?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, see, I learned Lincoln Elementary. We are excited to have you here, Dr. Dills.
Okay, so we are here tonight, and I'm standing in between them because they're super nervous. They said, can you just at least introduce us? First of all, I would like to thank you again, Lynchburg City Schools Board, for the opportunity to have the mentorship program into our schools. I cannot thank you enough. There is not words. And also for funding the intervention position, because as you can see on their shirts, it says, thank you for being pawsome, because the program that we have developed throughout the school year is to work to build leaders. These two young ladies are going to tell you how the mentorship program has impacted them. Are you first? Okay.
Hello, my name is Lachey Carthens. I'm in 7th grade. Why is Lincoln special to me? Lincoln is special to me because I have a favorite person that works here. Her name is Miss Hubbard. She is like a mother to me. She makes sure I'm doing good in school. When I'm down, she picks me up. When I'm down, she picks me up. She also tells me to be strong and stay focused. She is a great woman and motivates kids to do good in school. She is very caring, and I'm grateful for having her. She needs to be nominated for the best employee for LMS. When it comes to her job, she puts the pride to the side and makes sure everyone gets treated fair when it comes to rights or wrong. Without Ms. Hubbard, I don't know if kids, including me, would be successful. Ms. Hubbard and her job are important to Lincoln and the kids. I am also part of Awesome mentoring group. I am thankful for Ms. KG for community leaders to meet with us. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Great things are happening to LMS, and I am proud to be a Jaguar.
Hi, my name is Giselle Holloway, and today I'm representing my school, Lincoln Middle School. Some things about me is that I had a few hiccups through the years, but Lincoln changed my life a lot. I'm very wise, athletic, and hardworking and independent. I hope so, as I thought of letting go. Take your time, talk to somebody. Don't let it be free, but let it be known. Because at the same time, you don't need to be feeling this way. Because why do you feel this way? Let them know how you are feeling, because you don't need to go back and forth or stay quiet, because everybody don't need anybody. But you might need that one person that will be there for you every little second, every little step, see what you want to achieve, and let people go. It's mighty hard, but let people go. People might not stay with you for the rest of your life, but you need to know you're the one that's there for yourself. And you know what? No one is always there. One thing you need to know, when I'm by myself, I just let it be free. At the same time, I'll let myself know that I'm there for myself. I'm the only one that knows what's going on and how I'm feeling inside. They don't see what you're going through, but they don't care, because she's like a little kid. She's quiet. She sits by herself. But I know family is family. Talk to them about it. Sit down. Be real. Don't let it stay inside, because it seems like you're the person letting it stay inside is going to hurt and hurt and hurt. But just know they're going to be like, let me go with her. She knows everything. She knows how to calm me down. She knows how to stay in touch with me. You just be the realest person that know that they can calm down. But it's not about how you comfort. It's how you show them who's the bigger person. The real thing is staying to yourself and staying out of trouble. But the most important thing is being a leader. You might not see someone else doing something, but be the bigger person and ask them why are they doing it, what's making them do it. It's okay if they don't want to tell you, but break it down to them. Let them know the consequences. Most important word is letting them know, because it's never too late to be what you might have been.
Wow.
I joined mentor group with Ms. Raj and Ms. KG because I wanted to be a leader, or is a leader now. But mentor taught me to believe in myself and push myself to where I want to be, because no one else will do it for you. Learn about yourself and care for yourself, because nobody else really cares because you're caring for them. Dr. Dills always asks or tell me, so what did you do? I know you did the right thing. Did you? And my response is, well, I did this or that. But no, you're the leader, so why didn't you just do the right thing? Understand this. Everybody wants a reaction. No, don't give them it. Give them a reaction they never seen before, because they'll realize that you're smart, intelligent, and is powerful in every which ways. Push yourself, because no one else will do it for you. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. Today is an opportunity to build the tomorrow you want. Calm is a superpower. Don't let stress kill your happiness. Life is a gift, not a privilege. Keep up with yourself. Don't let people let you down because they're going to say, I got to her or him, so I can do it anytime. No, be the right person and let someone know, or just ignore it, because you will finally come out of your shell and be real with yourself. That's the only thing you need to know. And trying something new is the realest thing to do. Listen, I see so much potential in you all, and I want it to stay that way. Believe in yourself. Set goals. I'm done here, but just remember, it's not about having the right opportunity. It's about handling the right opportunities. And I'm going to speak my name again, Giselle Holloway. It might be raining outside, but it's always sunshine here in Jaguar Country. Also, before I leave tonight, I would like to do one thing. I heard it was Dr. Edwards' birthday tomorrow, so I would like to sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Dr. Edwards. Happy birthday to you.
Well, I know we want all of you to come back up for a picture, but Dr. Edwards, I'm be impressed with this, both groups.
They got me. I was ready until they got to the birthday party. So. Oh my goodness. There are no words. Giselle, you just really spoke to the heart of all of us.
All of us.
Adults, kids, you're a walking commercial for why, we support investment in youth mental health. I brought my book today just to remind me that we're here for the young people, and we as the adults need to keep our eyes open, our ears open, and our arms open just to be ready to embrace them and let them be them. Let them be the realest person they can be. And boy, did that just speak to me. So that was just great advice from your mouth to the rest of us here. And it is something that we need more of today. And we have been talking about the mentorship program, and there's nothing like bringing the kids who are actually being mentored and affected by the program here for you all to see the work that is being done. So I'm so proud of you all. I'm so very proud of the program, and great things are happening in Lynchburg City Schools, and it's because of the people that are here. We talked about our community partners. Dawn Wise gave us permission. She talked about her hiccups, so hiccups are okay. It's what we learn. What you say is how we handle the opportunity. So it's okay to fail. Failure is a part of success, and that's what we want. But the investment in our children is real. It comes from our community partners. It comes from our teachers. You heard them talk about teachers. You heard our former student, Jeremy, talk about investment in teachers and our staff. It comes from caring adults who want to be mentors, who are involved in children's lives. And that's what the Lynchburg community is all about. So I thank you all for coming here today and sharing your story. I do have a gift for each one of you that I'd like to share with you and then ask you to come up in the horseshoe so that we can take a group picture together.
Wow. While all of it is happening, I looked at the building principals and the assistant principals and staff. All of you are so proud, and we are proud as well. I don't know what we would have to do to get a copy of those speeches, but I certainly would be enriched if I had one. Powerfully said. All right, boy, we're going to take a picture with these superstars here. That was outstanding.
Very good. Well done.
Dr. Whitaker, you might have to turn them around.
Elliot, you did a great job.
And can we have our principals and assistant principals and KG? See you over there.
Good job. Oh, I know.
Yeah, come on the adult side of the table.
We gotta move over.
We're so glad to have all of you. Congratulations.
All right, and parents. Okay, so parents, we will hold still so you can get a photo after our community photo.
You all coming through
You want over here?
There we go. Andrews, if you come forward a little too. Come on in, Marty. Andrews, I'll get you on the end.
Get my shirt. That's what Shay just said. You get my shirt. That's right, Shay. You speak about that shirt.
Everybody, if you see me, I can see you. There we go. Okay. All right. Everybody say cheese. Cheese. Cut Dr. Coleman to the leg. Stay there. All right. One more cheese. Cheese. 2023.
Okay, we have to stay. Do we need to stay still? Okay. We need to stay still. I need parents.
Stay in place. We have some parents and supporters. That's right.
Yeah. All the parents, congratulations.
That's right.
Good to see you.
Got it? All right, thank you. Thank you so much.
Excellent job.
Oh, okay, you're.
Dr. Coleman.
Sure.
Dr. Coleman. Yes.
I wasn't gonna let you sit down with that chair back there, brother. I was gonna catch you.
Yeah, I know it. It was so honored to have you, Mr. Upper. Just a joy. Great job. Before we move on, we again want to just thank you all for coming and powerfully said, and thank you for appreciating our superintendent in advance of her birthday. That's very special when the students understand and value your
All the
work.
pressure's off now.
Outstanding. All right, everybody. Well, our two superstars from our two high schools are ready now to give us their reports, and we'll start with Cameron and then go to Kaylin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we've had a very busy month at Glass for having 2 weeks off. Attendance, we know, matters at LCS, and Glass is happy to say that our seniors maintained a 93% attendance rate in December, and they were treated with a movie day where they watched Home Alone before winter break to celebrate this. All 5 Latin classes had a Roman feast the day before break to celebrate and prepare for the holidays. Our EC Glass Theater is putting on Almost Maine, and the play dates are from January 26th until 28th, and you can buy tickets at the website shown. Our student council held their annual food and clothing drive. This was a school-wide event, and each grade competed. Thank you and congratulations to our wonderful freshmen who donated the most food and clothing. Our forensics team was runner-up overall at the University of Lynchburg's Snowball Tournament on December 10th. We would like to shout out Kate Bentov, who was first place extemporary, Sophia Hopt, who was first place poetry, and Bria Seifert, who was first place prose. We have a new club in the UC Glass building. Our new club, Flair, is dedicated to empowering and encouraging females, and they will have their first meeting this month on the 18th. Also, a shout out to our great athletics. Our varsity boys basketball are 10-2, and our varsity girls basketball are 7-5. And good luck to all 4 of our basketball teams as they face LCA this Thursday. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Karen. Wonderful job. Thank you. Karen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are very excited to be back after our winter break. Things are already back in full swing, and a lot of our teams and clubs have been working very hard even over break. So our wrestling team won the Wildcat Invitational at Warren County High School this past weekend. All 14 of the wrestlers placed.
Wow.
This is the third tournament that the Pioneers have won this season.
Wow.
Pioneer Theater has begun rehearsals for their winter musical Cabaret. Performances will be the last 2 weekends of February. This is our biggest musical of the year, and we're very excited. Some student recognition. Congratulations to Jasir Bateman, who won the ABC 13 Football Friday Player of the Year. Very exciting. I believe he's our quarterback on our team, and our football team really did excellent this season. Some more academic-based stuff. Our AP Psychology class is currently doing a sock baby project in which they must care for a baby for 2 weeks and then write a paper on their experiences. This is part of the unit on childhood development. We have a lot of, you can see the pictures of babies. I'm in the AP Psychology class, so I had to bring my baby. Yeah, this is really exciting and in an engaging way, I think, to teach students and have them learn, from experiences. It's really important to me to get input from students and teachers at Heritage. I don't know if they'll show this slide, but I asked some students and teachers what they were most excited for going back to school after winter break. These are anonymous. The first one is not, because it's from the AP Psychology teacher. He said he's looking forward to doing the sock baby project with AP Psychology students. And then the last 2 are students, one who was excited to see their teachers and friends again after break, and one who's looking forward to new experiences in their classes this semester. The support from our teachers and staff and just overall administration at Heritage has been really great. I know a lot of people kind of get burnout towards the third quarter, but I know the people that I have talked to, we all feel very supported by our staff and our teachers, and we know that should we need one, our teachers are a safe space to us to go to. So I think that Heritage really does prioritize the mental health and well-being of their students, and I'm very grateful for that. I know that we have a really awesome staff of counselors and the people specifically for seniors and juniors at Beacon of Hope who are really helping guide us through the college process, which kind of, gets crazy this time of year. So I'm really grateful for that, and I know that a lot of other students at Heritage are as well, so I wanted to highlight that. And I think, that's all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
On behalf of the board, Cameron and Kaylin, we just want to thank you both for what you bring to us. I know you would have to agree to see the elementary students and the middle school students, and now you have progressed through all of that, and now you're in high school and doing well. And one day you'll sit where we're sitting on school boards and other positions of authority and leadership in the community. But what you bring to the table is so powerful. We hear everything you say. And let's give our 2 high school representatives. Thank you very much. All right, we'll now move to Section F, our finance report. And as we have that, Dr. Edwards will bring this informational item on to us.
Yes, so I am going to turn it over to Dr. Wodeka and Ms. Capazzi to go over the November 2022 revenue expenditure and health insurance summary.
Okay, good evening. So at the top of our spreadsheets here, you'll see we have been bypassing this because we were waiting on the audit to get complete. But we have the 2023 operating budget showing our adopted budget at $106.3 million. Then we have that prior year encumbrance as a result of the audit. Now we know that number, and that's $1.6 million. The fund balance return, I have not put a number in there yet because of course we're hopeful to get every penny back, but I don't know what that is. So rather than be incorrect, we're just going to leave it until we know for sure, which brings our adjusted budget to $107.9 million as of right now. So the revenue and expenditure summary from 21 to 22, you see, is just about on track with the same as in 21. I can say that I know I've looked at it recently, and we have spent more, so that's a good thing. So when we get to December's and then January's, that looks even better. Our health insurance reserve over with the city is still at $2.066 million. The health insurance summary from October to November, the balance has increased more, $1.7 million. Dr. Gupta, you had asked before, where is that money coming from? At this point, it is not coming from anywhere. We are in the red in those lines. It'll be closer to, this is where we have to start, talking about where we're going to move money from in order to cover that. Will we be tapping into the health insurance reserve? So those discussions will be happening soon, starting with the Finance Committee. The health insurance summary overall from 21 to 22, looking at the bottom spreadsheet, we are a little better off this year than last year as far as by 2.76%. As you can see, 1.8 million last year, 1.7 million this year at this same time. Is there any questions about that?
All right. Any questions? Dr. Days.
So the fund balance return number, you're just waiting on city council to approve what they're going to let us have back again, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, we know the number that we sent them.
Thank you, Dr. Day. Dr. Gupta, did you have a question or concern? Dr. Brennan?
Was there any adjustment in the numbers that we were given as far as the agenda? I think there was a change for the under health insurance summary for 2021. Were those adjusted?
The year-to-date total, yes. The photo that I had initially sent to Dr. Wodeka for upload was the one previous to correcting it. So when that was brought to my attention, I sent him the correct one. And so this is the correct one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brennan. Dr. Gupta.
So I'm assuming in Finance Committee, you'll bring some sort of a plan to mitigate this bleeding, an ongoing bleeding. We know there's a problem, right?
Yes.
And we're just waiting for a solution which is sustainable and a long-term solution, not just Band-Aid solution.
Right.
Is my assumption right when you said?
Well, it's twofold, because one, we need to talk about what are we doing with this year's deficit. And then we need to talk about what are we doing long-term. So.
This is going year to year, that loss is there.
Right, so that's the long-term, what are we going to do? And there's a couple of different options, each with its own benefits and downfalls, so that's what will be brought to the table.
That's sufficient, Dr. Gupta? Okay. Any other questions for the informational item coming from Ms. Director to Capazzi? All right, thank you so much, and we will now move to Section G, our consent agenda. And the items on the consent agenda for tonight are minutes from the December the 6th, 2022 meeting, minutes from our public hearing on school operation budget 23-24, minutes from the December the 13th, 2022 work session, and then with the appropriate documentation, religious exemption 1, religious exemption 2, the Human Resources Board report, and an addendum that was added, item 7. What is the pleasure of the board to approve the consent agenda?
I move.
Go ahead.
I move that we approve.
consent agenda.
Mr. Trost has made a motion, seconded by Dr. Gupta. Any further questions or concerns? Yes, sir, Dr. Gupta.
You know, when resignations were larger in number compared to appointments, we had people coming and talking. But now you can see it has flipped the other way around. And where is Miss Scott? She's up there. Nobody is telling you, good job done. You're turning the tide in the right direction, so thank you.
Yes, well done.
But I always tell that's good times to clap sometimes. Not lightly said, and things are moving in the right direction. We often do not talk about that, so very well said. Any further questions, discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the consent agenda approval.
School Board Member Ms. Preston.
Yes.
School Board Member Mr. Trost.
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Sinha.
Yes.
Vice Chair Dr. Brennan.
Yes.
Chair Dr. Coleman.
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Gupta.
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Day.
Yes.
School Board Member Mr. Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move to Section 8, which is our school board member reports. If you do not have a report, you can kindly let us know, and we'll move to the next item on this section. Finance and Facilities Committee Chair, Dr. Sinha.
We have a meeting for next week, so we haven't met since our last school
Okay.
board meeting.
All right, and thank you for your leadership and for the Finance Committee, and we certainly want to make sure that that committee is well supported in the work that they're called to do. Dr. Gupta.
So I'm assuming the process we follow is any information, and when it comes to finance, has to go through the chair of the Finance Committee. So not all of us are running to the staff and consuming their precious time in asking for this document and this report and that report.
Well, we have norms and protocols, members of the board, and I certainly am not going to stand in the way of what makes things more effective and efficient. To Dr. Gupta's point, is there any comments or thoughts on that?
So that's the understanding.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, so I just want to be clear on what I am hearing. That's my job. Are we saying that matters pertaining to finances should go to the chair of the Finance Committee for interaction with appropriate staff persons in relationship to approval from the superintendent?
That's the understanding.
From other board members.
Yeah.
From other board members not on the Finance Committee, or
anybody.
Anybody on the board.
So that means the 8 others
Mm-hmm.
would come to you about a financement-related matter, and then you would take it from there.
Yes.
I have nothing to say about it, against it, so, you know, it doesn't do much to say things in meetings and then we walk away and act like we don't understand what we just said. So that's all I'm trying to do, is to clarify that. So, all right, well, we will proceed in that manner. Thank you, Dr. Sinha. All right, we will now move to the Governor's School Committee. Dr. Gupta.
We don't have a meeting till February first week, so.
Thank you very much. The Law Regional School Committee, Dr. Carter will
Yeah,
we will digress, go back whatever to item 2, Dr. Gupta, Dr. Day.
Well, I attended in Dr. Gupta's place in the December 7th governor's school meeting.
All right. You want to tell us about it?
Well, yeah, okay. So Steve Smith, the director, went through the budget and addressed line by line things that were slightly over budget and explained how those things are normally handled. They do have one of their main math teachers retiring, and they're looking for a replacement for him, so that needs to be the right kind of person to be at the governor's school. They are conducting promotional visits, or maybe they have at this point, since it's been more than a month now, promotional visits to individual schools throughout November, December, and January to kind of give overviews of their programs to students. And students who are eligible are going to get letters telling them about these promotional events, so that maybe a student who might not think that they're a candidate for the governor's school will get something in the mail to help them say, oh, maybe that would work for me. And then they gave us a tour of their research project lab and showed us a lot of the student projects that were going on and the equipment that they've purchased, and pretty impressive, I thought. So that's what happened at the meeting.
Very good. And Dr. Day, I know you brought all of your expertise in those subject matters to that. And so thank you for reporting that for Dr. Gupta. Any questions concerning the report coming from Dr. Day? All right, now we can move on to H3, the Law Regional Committee. And as I indicated, Dr. Carter will report to us at our next meeting regarding activities of Laurel. The STEM Academy as well for Dr. Carter. And the Legislative Advocacy and Community Relations Committee, according to Dr. Carter. I will take the liberty, if you do not mind, to remind you that the clerk has done an excellent job of sending out information to you regarding the Capitol Conference. I think that is January the 30th and the 31st, maybe. And Dr. Edwards is registered. And those of you who would like to go, there's space that needs to be in regarding getting things in. When is the date for that, Dr. or Mrs. Day, regarding registering for the Capitol Conference?
It's still open.
Still open? So that's going to be pretty neat, and we'll be able to go and see all of the people who visited us for our breakfast in Richmond. And so just want to make sure I put that out there. All right.
If I could just chime in, I went to it last year. It's a very good conference and an opportunity to go see our delegation in their own habitat, if you will, and see all the buzz that goes around in that building and how busy they are. So I highly recommend it if you can go.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha. All right, so that's going to be a great time for us. Now, Partners in Education, Dr. Sinha and Mrs. Preston.
I think there's a Partners in Education meeting later on this weekend. We obviously had the opportunity of meeting Mr. Marshall and Ms. Agard today, so things are moving along smoothly.
Very good. All right, thank you both. All right, the Education Foundation, Mr. Trost and Dr. Sinha.
We have our meeting this Thursday.
Yeah, we had a meeting scheduled for December, but then it didn't work out. So we're meeting next week, I believe. Or no, it's this week, Thursday. Yes.
This Thursday. Looking forward to that.
Thank you very much. And H8, the Beacon of Hope, Mr. Andrews and Mrs. Preston.
Nothing to report.
Anything to report, yeah.
All right, I know there's one item, Dr. Gupta brought this up in 2022 in relationship to the accreditation issue, and I would like to work with both of you all in terms of being able to get a chance to just make sure that that's clear with Beacon of Hope as they do the excellent work that they're doing. I think that Ms. Hamilton has already reached out to us in that regard, and so I'm excited about that. And I want the public to understand, as each of our board members have a resolve, that these groups that are in the community that are seeking to help us handle all of these issues, mental health issues, tutoring, whatever they may be, they are hugely important. And we, over these next 6 months, let's do everything we can to engage everyone who legitimately can help us do what we need to do for kids. And I want to thank each board member for all that you're doing in the community to help make some of these things happen as we partner with these groups. And those of you who are giving of your volunteer time to be on these different boards and committees, if you will, to make the work happen. So thank you very much, and we'll continue to move forward. All right, Section I, Comprehensive Strategic Plan. Strategic Plan Goal 2.5.1. And I am so proud of the work of Mr. Coleman, but I see a designation here that I want to be able to applaud, but I'm going to let the superintendent do that.
No, this is you, Dr. Coleman.
Oh, it is?
That's okay.
Oh.
But we can applaud.
Mr. Coleman, I was getting ready to talk about you. Yes, indeed. Well, that I did request for this to be on the agenda. She's close.
Very close.
Well, let's give close a hand. Let's do that. Wow. Board members, this first meeting of the brand new year is a centering opportunity for us. And in the past, we have not always been clear on what board goals we have. And so I do want us to be intentional. Everybody that gives a report, everything that we do, every time we engage a staff member through the appropriate person, as we've learned tonight, financial pieces go through Dr. Sinop, let it relate to the accomplishment of one of these 4 goals and the subpoints within each of them. I wouldn't dare read them to you, but they're here along with our norms and protocols. Let's do what we need to do to get the work done. And let this governing body be an example to our community and Commonwealth of what it means to align everything to that which is going to be best for kids. And so, can't say we don't have goals now, and you cannot say that what we ought to be doing ought to be working towards the fulfillment of these goals. Any questions from any member of the board on that matter? All right. And thank those of you on the board that pushed us to make sure we had these goals. All right, now we're going to move to I-2, strategic, oh, wait a minute, something else on that?
Yeah, I just,
Go right ahead,
because we
Dr.
did get notice that we have been accepted as the governance team for VSBA's fiscal governance cohort.
Yeah.
Which will be myself, Dr. Wodika, Ms. Kapazi, Mrs. Pugh, and Dr. Sinha. So our 5-person finance governance team will be participating in professional development starting in March. So we'll be reporting back to the board. But that's the board doing their version of 2.5.1, which is implement high-performing school board practices that support positive outcomes for students.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards, for reminding us of that. And, you know, no one wants to be accused of patting your own self on the back, but this board does need to be given credit for taking advantage of opportunities that are coming our way to get better in the work that we do, and that's another example of it. And so I'm thankful to those who are going to work with that, and grateful to get the information that you all will learn from being a part of that process. Thank you, Dr. Edwards. And now item 2 under section I with Dr. Wodika.
Yes. So goal 3.3.2 is about our facility study, and we have that here so that we can give you a regular update regarding the progress of the facility study, as well as, since we had some interesting times over the holiday break, we thought we'd just talk about facilities in general. So I am going to turn it over to Dr. Wodika to give a quick update.
Well, thank you, Dr. Edwards, and good evening, everyone. It's always so good to see you. So I want to start off with what has been a challenge, but I think has been an incredible opportunity and win for our school division over the last several weeks. You all are aware that during winter break, we had some power outages and some very cold weather. And so in some of our older buildings, particularly R.S. Payne, T.C. Miller, Dunbar Middle School, and also at Paul Monroe, we had some pretty significant water damage as a result of some broken pipes, right? So no surprise, these are old buildings. These things happen, unfortunately. And that was a really big challenge. But I do just want to say that the work that our staff did over the last several weeks has been nothing short of miraculous. A week ago when we were in R.S. Payne, very difficult shape, right? And in the building now, they went back to school yesterday after a week of virtual learning. The building is shining more probably than it has in 25 years. The floors are shining. It's like, as Ms. Pugh says, you can't even tell it happened. So we still have some significant challenges throughout the division. The other really big win, I think, is that even though T.C. Miller is not back in their own school, the long-term partnership that school has had with West Lynchburg Baptist Church has allowed us to seamlessly move into that building yesterday and really have basically no challenges, no major challenges anyway, is just a testament to the relationships that school has built. The number of church members that were out to help on the first day was absolutely remarkable. We were so thankful for those opportunities. And again, just incredible amount of work that's gone into making sure the buildings are in good shape. And so if you'll just allow me a little bit of leeway here. I want to mention some of the LCS employees that have put in an incredible amount of work just to get our buildings back open. Dunbar and Paul Monroe were back open before school started, and it's still addressing some smaller issues there. But so an incredible amount of work was done there. So the first several I want to mention: Boyce Hamlet, who's our assistant director of facilities; Brian Green, who's our supervisor of the grounds; Shirley Rucker, who's our environmental services manager; Mark Robertson and Gordon Clements, who are in our maintenance department. Each one of those folks have put in individually more than 100 hours of work in the last couple of weeks in these buildings, making sure they're back up to where they need to be. Also want to mention Bruce Ricks, Rob James, Larry Lowry, Alan Foster, John Monroe, Bobby Hurt, Mark Johnson, who is the Paul Monroe head custodian, Lamont Robertson, Akeem Brown, Dawn Clegg, Raymond Smith, Greta Ford, Ann Robinson, Tyrone Robinson, Brian King, Lester Green, Danelle Rucker, Cade Napier, Arnethia Hudson, and Christopher Kelly. All of these are LCS employees who spent time outside of their working hours, on their winter break, on the weekends, when I'm pushing as hard as I can to make sure the buildings are open, that are actually getting the work done. Just incredible amount of work and incredible amount of dedication. So we will do more for them than just mentioning their name, but we do want to make sure that we mention their names and others in our community that have just done an incredible job of making sure that our learning spaces are backed in order and ready for our students. And we talk about the most important thing that we can do as a school division is put incredible teachers in front of our students. But the second most important thing is to make sure that they have learning environments that are healthy, happy, and safe. And that's the work that these folks did over the last couple of weeks. So I just want to express my thanks for that and all the work that's been done. And also, I didn't mention Don Floyd, our director of facilities. I should have mentioned him. He also put in a few hours here and there, many hours. It's kidding, but so thankful for him and thankful for all the work that's been done. So I'd appreciate a round of applause for them.
And Dr. Walter, you don't have to forgive me tonight, but I know you said it, but I just want to underscore that we were willing to make our buildings available when it was so cold outside.
Yes.
I mean, and that was so well appreciated by so many that we were willing to do that. And to me, that's incredible. And I don't take my words for granted. When I say something, I deeply mean it from my heart. And it is just, that's rich and doesn't need to be overlooked. All right, Dr. Gupta wants to say something.
Well, I was just going to applaud, so he.
Can I ask a question, though?
Ms. Preston, go right ahead.
My question was simply the names that you gave. Is it possible for us to have a list of those names? Because some of us know some of these people or encountered them in other environments or whatever, and it's an opportunity for us to personally say thanks for whatever or.
Absolutely. I'll send that out.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Brennan.
Dr. Walker, I know that you and the staff have been involved with many things over the holidays, but as far as the facilities plan go, where are we with that? As far
I'm
as
glad you asked. That's my next topic. Yes. So over the last two school board meetings, I mentioned that we were in the process of negotiating terms with the educational consultant for the work. So we are proud to announce that we have selected MGT of America, LLC, which is a national firm that does educational consulting work throughout the country. And so when you evaluate these teams that provide proposals, there's a couple of ways you do that. The first thing is you take a look at the team that is going to be serving you, and then you're going to take a look at the very similar work that they've done in other jurisdictions and other school divisions. And so we felt that this is a very impressive team. The project executive on the program is a former deputy superintendent for operations for a large school division, so has done this work quite a bit. The project manager is an architect, but was previously a school teacher before. The team that makes up the rest of the team are made up of certainly former school teachers and administrators, large and small school districts all over the country, as well as data analysis experts and others who can really more fully evaluate our programmatic efforts. And so we think the team is really strong. We're really excited about that. They've also done a huge number of similar projects throughout the country that have set similar goals. First, assessing a programmatic work that we do as a school division, but then also figuring out how they place those in our school buildings, either existing or future or whatever the case may be. And so we were most impressed, I think, with the project they did recently, actually in Kansas City, that pretty much did exactly what we're looking for. So you're looking at what do our programs look like, and then what do we do with the schools we have, and what buildings do we need in the future through consolidation or closing or new schools or renovations or repurposing schools. So we felt that that was really very, very consistent with the project that we want to go through and we need to do. So the scope of their work, I won't read the whole thing to you, but it's several components. They start with an environmental scan. That's what we call an environmental scan, which is really evaluating all the data that is related to our school division. So performance data, certainly, but also understanding the wide variety of quantitative data that we can produce and helping us to get a good understanding of where we are. That's sort of on a quantitative perspective. On a qualitative perspective, the engagement process that they defined, including stakeholder groups, certainly LCS officials, including school board members, city council members, all of us as key leaders, faculty, staff, and students, potentially alumni, nonprofit organizations, and certainly feedback will come in terms of both phone conversations, a community survey, and both virtual and community on-site forums. So there's lots of opportunities, I think, for people to engage on where we're going. And we'll use the information from that environmental scan as well as the community engagement to develop 3 major options for where we're going for the school board to consider, so that we can actually also receive feedback from the community as well. And so that's in the scope, and then finally they'll develop a final report and then work with us on an implementation plan over the next 6 or so months. So that's where we are. So we're excited to be working with them. We'll be moving forward with them very soon, and I think it's going to be a great project.
All right, thank you, Dr. Waterco. Dr. Day.
I just want to clarify the name of the firm. Is it NGT or M?
MGT, like Marty?
Oh.
GT.
Thank you, Dr. Day. Dr. Brennan?
Dr. Ward, thanks for that update. I know that one of the things we've talked about is trying to keep the community involved with what's going on with this project. And, we go back to community conversations, which I guess were in the spring when this was last discussed. What's your thoughts about when do we sort of make the community aware of what's going on besides what we're doing here to really, so we don't sneak up on people saying that now here we are with 3 options of what we're going to do at other schools?
It's a great point. So first, in the scope, there's lots of opportunities for engagement. So we'll definitely get that information out early. We can also do information about what we're talking about tonight. I think in press release, so we can share with where we are in the project. And I think we'll be meeting with our media partners in the next couple of weeks, and so we'll share that as well. And then certainly when we have these meetings or have the opportunities for surveys and have, so forth, we'll publicize that as much as we possibly can.
And one other addition, I know that you said that there's a committee that's made up of city staff as well as LCS staff, and the board has talked about doing reports to the city council sort of on a regular basis to keep them up to date. Is that something that this board should do, or is that something that the city staff is doing with the city council to keep them up? Because obviously they're going to be a key partner in this whole process.
Let me confirm with the city staff on that, which I assume that they're keeping them up to date, but I will make sure.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you, Dr. Brennan. Any further questions for Dr. Waterco? All right, we're pressing our way. This is some great work that has to be done regarding the future of Lynchburg and education in Lynchburg. So thank you, Dr. Waterco. Any other matter pertaining to item 2? If not, we'll move on to I3 with our strategic plan goal 1.1 and 1 and 1.7.2 update. Dr. Edwards, bring on Dr. Brown.
Sure, I'm going to ask Dr. Brown to come up. 1.7, 1 and 2 talk about our response for student services, trauma, alternatives to suspension, and really dealing with behavior management support for kids. So Dr. Brown has shared with you some things at the retreat. He's done quite a bit of work since our board retreat and has some additional information that he is going to share about how we're going to continue to support our students here in Lynchburg City Schools. So I am going to let him share the good news.
This has been a night full of it. Diligently upstairs. So, members of the board, good evening. Dr. Coleman, Vice Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I always enjoy this setting more so than our Thursday night meetings. It's good to get a little break from that. But at the retreat, I did mention we had set the vision for our department, and it's our vision to be a national model that provides world-class behavioral and mental health supports in educational settings. So we have been doggedly working towards that vision in a short amount of time, and really aggressively pursuing some things that would help have some immediate impacts here in Lynchburg City for our students, because we know that's what they deserve. And so I'll frame out the need for the grant that we applied for. We have seen an increase in mental health and behaviors this year. We are currently on track to double, in some cases triple, the number of self-harm assessments that we have conducted with our students. So that's always very concerning. We also have our social workers at a ratio of 11 to 1,200 per students per social worker. So that's just not a sustainable level. And if you look at the packet that just turned out, I also gave you a chart that explains and has a lot of details on what our social workers are doing, and you can see just how exponentially their needs have increased and the requirements of their job have increased over the last 4 years. And so that's just not sustainable, and we want to make sure that we get to a place where we have the support and staff needed to take care of these growing needs. And so we found, my supervisor, Ms. Wickham Stokes, Zoe Stokes, has found a school-based mental health grant, and I said, did we want to apply for it? I said, absolutely, we want to apply for it. So it was a very competitive grant. It was a federal grant through the Department of Education, and it was a beast of a grant, just to say the least. So we spent a lot of time working on that in October. Put it together to the best of our abilities. They received hundreds of applications nationwide. Today we learned that 240 applications made it to the screening process, and they accepted 102. And Lynchburg City Schools is one of the 102. But wait, there's more. So the great part is the amount, and this will supply us with $8.4 million over the next 5 years. The purpose of this grant is to increase the number of credentialed mental health service providers and the ability to provide mental health support for our students. And so we're really, really excited about this grant. It's going to allow us to do a lot of different things over the next 5 years and really take it to the next level to serve our students and meet these needs. And so I'll briefly go through some of the things that, because I know we're short on time tonight, but I just want to hit some of the highlights of what we're doing with this grant. And so, as I stated with our social workers, we have an amazing social working team. I mean, just phenomenal. And we don't want to lose them. They are currently, after we did some research with the grant, they were about $20,000, in some cases $30,000 below what they could make in other school divisions in our state. And so we wanted to get that up to a place where it's decent. And then we wanted to celebrate those who and appreciate those who are doing the work above and beyond that, are doing supervisory work and lead work. So we're able to provide 10% salary retention stipend for all of our social workers, which I know they were really excited about that when we told them that news, and really felt appreciated, which was the main thing. And then we're able to provide a $5,000 stipend for our lead social worker, because she's currently been doing all that work as a lead without any compensation. We're able to provide a stipend for our social worker who's providing licensure experience. And so in 2 years, all of our social workers will be licensed clinical school social workers, which is a huge resource, which will actually allow us to help make this sustainable, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in my presentation. And then once they become licensed, it just much as like when a teacher gets a master's degree, there will be a stipend of about $3,200 for their license, and adding that credentialing to them. So we also have a board certified behavior analysis, a BCBA, and that's Rich Ferguson, and he is literally doing the work of 4 people. We used to have 4 about 5 or 6 years ago, and then we weren't able to hire anymore. Again, it's extremely below market value. He is a wealth of knowledge, and he gets offers monthly from private firms to trying to solicit him away from Lynchburg City Schools. But he has a heart for our kids in our city and does a tremendous work. And so I also provided some definitions for those who may not be familiar on the very back page of what some of these positions are and what they do. And so just a brief overview of BCBA is someone who studies behavior and then provides recommendations. And all of our principals just speak so highly of Rich Ferguson. And the only thing that they say is negative about him is that it's just one of him. So we want to keep him around. So we're able to increase his salary as well and provide a $5,000 stipend as well to keep him aboard. Then we want to expand some of our support and services through the grant as well. And so we're able to make another Rich Ferguson, and we're able to hire another BCBA, which will double our capacity there. We're able to hire 4 registered behavior techs, and those will be folks, the hands and feet of those BCBAs that were able to actually go and help implement those plans and work with our students one-on-one when we're having behavioral challenges and report that data back to the BCBAs to help our support our teachers and our principals. And we're able to cut down on that ratio as well. So we're going to be able to hire 2 new social workers to join our 6-person teams. That brings us up to 8 for our division. And I think that was, it got more cheers than the pay did for our social worker team when we announced that. And then we're really excited about this. We proposed to create a new position. We're calling them restorative counselors, which will be QMHPCs, and that stands for Qualified Mental Health Professionals with a Child Endorsement. And so these are folks that will, in the mental health field, that will be able to help support our counselors and support our principals. And sometimes there are peer conflict and there needs to be mediation. There also can be some group counseling sessions, but that would help our schools tremendously and our principals be more proactive than reactive. We don't want to always get in the habit of, after an issue happened, then going in and trying to fix things. We want to get ahead of those and try to help students mediate through that as well. And then really excited about our last section, which is contracted services. And so, as we mentioned during the retreat, therapeutic day treatment, because of changes in Medicaid and DMAS, have been taken out of the schools and not really sustainable for our mental health providers. So we didn't have any real mental health immediate mental health services minus outpatient, in-school outpatient counseling. So we're excited to announce that we have a pot of funding starting at $700,000 and then graduating downwards to $500,000 towards the end of the grant for therapeutic day treatment services contracted through our mental health providers, as well as social emotional behavior support programs and/or for both of those programs. And we can also provide some professional development for our mental health providers all through this grant. So really excited about those things. We always want to think about sustainability, and so it's a 5-year grant. What happens at the end of that 5 years? I anticipate being around if you all will have me for a little while longer. So I want to make sure that we're able to sustain this. So in the grant, we actually proposed a way to keep this sustainable. And one, we want to leverage our community partners and our mental health-based partners. I had some conversations, really good conversations this week, and some of those partners are really committed to helping solicit funds and go after grants on their end to help subsidize some of the cost as these funds dwindle down and we prepare for the grant ending in 5 years. We also can budget and set aside funds. $250,000, $300,000 is what we recommend. Don't worry about that right now, but we can have those conversations. Discussion is not a deal breaker, but that would be helpful later on down the road as well. Insurance billing, and so I talked to you about when our social workers become licensed. So working with our finance department and looking at Medicaid billing and some changes that are coming down the pipeline, we would be able to potentially bill for some of the services that our social workers are providing. Though the restorative counselors, the important part of having them as QMHPs is because they would be able to bill for Medicaid as well. And then some of our therapeutic day treatment services and social emotional behavior support would be able to bill as well to all bring those costs down. And then we're going to continue to aggressively pursue other grants and funding opportunities in the meanwhile to help subsidize the cost so that we can make sure that we don't have to ask for more money than we need. And then implementation, we're already started. So we got notification of this on December 27th. And the federal government said you need to start this on January 1st. And so we had a real quick turnaround and a little bit of work over Christmas break, winter break. So We've already started, and we've job descriptions, and we're starting to post those now, working with our human resource department and working with our financial department to make sure that logistically all those things are taking place. We attended a webinar today. And then we plan to expand our services, so we've already talked to our mental health professionals and asked them could they take on a couple extra schools or provide extra counselors in these services. So these are a quick turnaround, which will be happening in the next couple of weeks. We hope to have folks hired in the next several weeks. And then procurement process, so we do need to put out a RFP. So we've been working with Matt Mosteller in the city and already moving full steam ahead with that. So that's about a 3-4 month process if you know procurement. So that's going to take a while. But in the meantime, we can already have these services set up and be ready to go once we're ready. And then we can expand our services with newly contracted organizations that we're really excited about, maybe even some mentoring organizations as well. So I'm excited to bring that news to you, and if you have any questions.
Well, certainly, there are going to be questions for this, and before I yield to Dr. Day, this has been an amazing meeting. A lot of times people will say, well, we just find good things to talk about to cover up other stuff, but this is just naturally happening with Rich Neck Elementary School and all the concerns I've heard. To come to this meeting this week and to hear you say, staff people, talented, put together a grant proposal and have been awarded $8.4 million, and you thought through how it should work. That's incredible.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Day?
This is really exciting, and I have been trying to understand what things we can do to help those of our students who are not performing up to their academic potential. And although I'm not an educational psychologist, one of the things I keep hearing over and over again is that behavior problems, not only for the students who are having the behavior problem, but it affects everyone else in the classroom. So this is really important. It's my understanding that this is something a lot of the classroom teachers struggle with because they don't have enough support for that. So this is really great. I'm really encouraged to hear about this. And I wanted to mention one thing in particular. I think I've said before that a few weeks ago I went and visited the Fort Hill Academy and talked with Kathy Vire, the director, and I asked her, what are 1 or 2 things that are the most important things that you need? And she said, I need a dedicated, well, she wanted a psychiatrist. She said, maybe I'll take a psychologist. But one of the things she said is she needs to have someone so when a student sees someone, it's the same person they see. Because those students in particular, the counselor or advisor working with them needs to build a relationship with those young people before they can make any progress. Now, you're probably very well aware of that. I see you nodding your head.
Yes, sir.
I just felt it was my duty to Kathy to make sure that message is heard. They need a person who's really dedicated to their particular needs and sees the same kids over and over and over.
Yes, sir. One step ahead of you. We've already met with Ms. Vire and one of our mental health providers, and so we're off and rolling on that front. Yes, sir. Definitely.
Really glad to hear that.
Thank you, Dr. Day. Dr. Gupta?
So it's a great news, no doubt. But as I look in the horizon, 4 years out, and you brought up the issue of backfilling some of that money, my concern is, and there are 2 things. Are we looking at there's monies will be needing to, because the coronavirus money will be sunsetting.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So could we backfill some of that through the grant? That's my question number 1.
That is a good question. If I understand it correctly, you want to use some of the CARES funding from COVID to...
No. We had some, like we hired a behavioral therapist, we hired restorative justice, we had positions approved using temporary coronavirus money.
Right.
And since this grant is tailoring to mental health, that money otherwise will go into the regular budget, and we need to come up with that money.
Right.
So this $2 million a year you're getting, will that help?
I think in some aspects it could. And some of those positions could apply for these new positions and shift over. So, for example, the RBTs, the registered behavior techs, and the restorative counselors. If folks have those qualifications, then they could apply for those positions, and we could shift the positions, if you will, into the newer roles, which could still fulfill some of the older roles. I'm thinking in particular like the behavioral interventionist position that Dr. Dill spoke to earlier and has done really great things. I'm not sure of her qualifications, but that's something that we could look at, not having that still that same position, but keeping that same person in a new role doing similar things.
So how much were the indirect costs you asked for in this grant?
I'm sorry?
Indirect costs, were there allocated indirect costs? 20%, 30%?
So
the reason I'm asking is that that's sort of a pot of money which
Right.
gives the superintendent some leeway to, I'm worried about that sunset of coronavirus and then that other things kicking in, because this will be a $2 million expenditure 4 years out.
Right.
Because 10% stipend you give is an excellent thing, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But when that 10% stipend sunsets, that person will be feeling the pain.
Right.
And where do we come up with that, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
The money going forward.
I do. And again, with that, the sustainability plan with those 4 steps of, trying to look to see if we can budget work with Dr. Wodika, work with Kapazi, making sure that we're being smart with our budget. I've also redesigned my budget as well to try to find some ways that we can provide supplemental budgeting allocations to help with these stipends and things later on down the road after we run out of the grant funding cycle. So it's going to be on the radar and something that we'll think about frequently and often. And again, we'll be pursuing other grants as well. There's another opportunity that we have coming up, and so we're already looking at pursuing some other funding as well. So we're committed to keeping that, and it's definitely on. We're not celebrating that we have it just yet, and we definitely know we need to sustain this beyond the 5 years.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gupta. Dr. Edwards, anything you wanted to add to that point?
No, we knew that question was coming, Dr. Gupta. But I think one of the things that we also talked about when we looked at supporting the grants office is getting extra bodies in here to be aggressive and go after grants and get more funding. We get our discretionary grants from the federal government, Title I, the things that we normally get, but what is the other money that we can use to kind of subsidize some of this? And then I don't want to miss Dr. Brown's point that he talked about the importance of having folks licensed and certified so they can bill, so we can be reimbursed for the services, which will offset some of the salary costs and things like that. And that's a huge part of it as well.
And see,
Go ahead, Doc.
the other thing is that $2 million goes into therapists, and they'll go up in your administrative line. So the people think your administration has gone up by $2 million. So that, you know what I'm talking about, that disclosure needs to be there to make sure that it's not superintendents we are hiring. And these are...
With Dr. Gupta, that kind of drives me to my point, and I know that Dr. Edwards, Dr. Director Reeves will handle this, but just managing the message is what I'd like to say on all of those kind of things. We manage the message. And as we talk about this grant unfolding, I'm wondering how we can help the community really deeply understand the mental health issues that we are dealing with in Lynchburg City Schools, and more specifically, Lynchburg City itself. And I don't know what kind of campaign we're going to wage to that end, Dr. Edwards, but I think it's critical, particularly when we start talking about the budget cycle, as has been mentioned, and people really understanding why we need these things. And if you're not directly in place to see why you need it, you probably don't understand why you would need it. But I hope that we'll hear more about that. But this is just huge. Dr., any other member of the board? Mr. Trost?
I just want to commend Dr. Brown, not only for going after this grant aggressively, but also having a forethought to say, what about sustainability? And I'm glad you're doing that at the front side. Gives you plenty of time to develop a plan. You're obviously thinking about that. Well done. I'm also very excited that our city school system, under Dr. Edwards' leadership and you, Dr. Brown, the nation is having all of these mental health crises. So we are actually taking a proactive approach by looking for these types of things and putting the people in place to take care of those things. So
Exactly right.
kudos to the administration, Dr. Brown. I'm the first to say I want to get out of the parenting business, but unfortunately, that's part of this space we're in, that we are going to be in the parenting business for the foreseeable future. And your forethought, your administration's forethought, Dr. Edwards, is really a well appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Truss. Well said. Dr. Sinha.
Well, I think, the fact that we were awarded this grant, one, is a testament to your ability to apply for it and make a convincing case, but the fact that we made a convincing case just illustrates how serious our situation is here in the city of Lynchburg.
Yes.
And I also want to commend you because in October, you two months in the job?
Yes, ma'am.
Well done.
Thank you.
I mean, that's a big undertaking. And I know you're familiar with the division. You've been with us in the past, but still not in this role in your previous employment here. So that's just really outstanding. So I really give kudos to you for jumping right in and taking advantage of that and rallying your staff to do what was needed. And these stats, I'll tell you, I'm a numbers person, but they really tell a story.
They tell a
too.
story.
And certainly, it's not so much that we're parenting these kids, we're providing services that they're just not getting anywhere else because they're not available anywhere else, or waiting lists are bad, or their health insurance for whatever, I don't know why psychological services are separate from health medical services but it's very expensive to get these things if your health insurance doesn't cover them or if you can't wait for services. So it does fall on the schools.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, that's a burden we have to bear because it's not being taken care of anywhere else. But these numbers are just really something to see, the increase in what we've been doing and the need. So certainly this will be part of our communication when we talk to city council about how much we have to come up with that's not SOQ funded because we have all of these needs as a city school district with high poverty and the issues that go with that. And now we know with the increased cost in housing, inflation with food, everything, it just compounds the issue. The thing I've heard about poverty, if there's unemployment, that's much easier to deal with because people can rally around that person or family that's experiencing unemployment. But inflation, housing costs, that affects everybody. And so even people who you wouldn't consider in poverty now are struggling if they've been renting all along to find housing. So, and that just creates stress and all kinds of uncertainty or whatever. So definitely this comes at the right time for us. So thank you and well done.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha. And no other comments need to be made at this time. Doctor, was there something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to add for the public that is watching, I did upload the document that Dr. Brown shared with the school board so that the public would be able to see the
Excellent.
stats
There you
as
go.
well. So if you're in board docs and you refresh, you should be able to see that under the public content for this section I3. The other thing that I want us as school board and community to just publicly state that in no way does our investment in any of this constitute our thought of a lack of parenting. And I think that's important to just pause right now to say that many of our parents are doing an excellent job. They're doing the best job that they know how, and they're struggling with the changes that they see in their children. They're struggling with the presence of social media and the pull that it has on kids. So that I don't want to give the appearance that we're saying that this is not being addressed at home. I believe there are many parents who are probably watching right now saying, please help me help my kid. So this is a partnership that we have with our parents, because many, and I know Dr. Brown gets the phone calls, I get them, and I'm talking to parents who are telling us, here are 10 things that I'm doing that would normally work. And their frustration is probably similar to classroom teachers. Here are some things that I've done that would normally work, and now these things are not working with the children who are sitting in front of us. So I think all of us adults, the educators, the parents, the community, we all need to rally around each other and provide this support for our students, and just really be purposeful and intentional about the support and the outcome, and leave the blame or the pointing fingers elsewhere. We don't have time for that. Our kids are in crisis right now, and they need all of us to rally forward. So to the degree that we have to advocate with city council or anyone else to say, you know, our young people need our help, that is our mission to do that. And it's not just the young people, it's the young people and the families that are also trying to support the young people at home that also need our help.
Perfectly stated, Dr. Edwards. And I just want to take this opportunity before I sit down just to thank my team again. I'm really fortunate to work with some really talented individuals, and Ms. Stokes carried a heavy load on this grant writing as well. So we make a good team, and I always like to leave people wanting just a little bit more. So I'm just going to throw out a trailer, if you will, for my presentation at the end of this month, when I'll be talking about behavioral supports, because today was focused on mental health. But we are looking forward to opening some new centers and interventions for our students here, and we'll be talking with our principals, secondary principals on Friday, and looking at opening our restorative suspension center. So students receiving short-term suspensions of 10 days or less, instead of going home or just hanging out around the community, they'll actually be with adults who are working on their behavior, working on skill building, making sure they're being reflective and creating plans for when they go back to school after that suspension is over, and doing their work so that academically they're not falling farther behind. So there's more to come on that, more details. I will take no questions on that, because
Thank you, Director Brown, and all that you have just heard, ladies and gentlemen, and the entire community is real talk, and we appreciate it. I'm going to ask that we would take a 5-minute recess, and when we come back, we'll be able to move through the 4 items of unfinished business, the 2 items in new business, and then be prepared for comments. And we do have a closed meeting ever so briefly at the end of tonight's meeting. 5-minute recess. energizing that brief little break, and we'll now move into Section J, unfinished business, and what is coming before you in this section. These are action items, and so J1, Student Services Policy Updates, Dr. Edwards.
Yes, so these are the follow-up, second reading for the policies that were presented in December. So I am going to let Ms. Pugh kind of briefly go over the student services policies.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank Dr. Edwards for going over these at the December work session. In my absence, you have before you the student services policies that are up for a 3-year review. Dr. Edwards addressed the changes. Most of these are minor changes with wording or pronoun changes, and I don't believe there's anything of significance in any of them, so you've had an opportunity to look at them now and review them. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you, Deputy Superintendent Pugh. You've heard what is being presented to us for our second reading. Just a reminder at the beginning of the year, these policies are so critical to those goals that we talked about, to our comprehensive plan, because it is our task to make sure that our policies are aligned to the vision and the goals that have been established, mission for the school division. So we don't take this process lightly, and thank you for the great work that each of you are doing to make sure that you're on top of what these policies are calling for. And so is there any questions to Mrs. Pugh regarding what she's presented before we entertain a motion?
I can make a motion to approve it.
All right, it's been moved by Dr. Gupta, seconded by Dr. Brennan, that we will approve the student services policies that are presented to us tonight. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
School Board Member Ms. Preston?
Yes.
School Board Member Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Sinhai?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dr. Brennan?
Yes.
Chair Dr. Coleman?
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Day?
Yes.
School Board Member Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. J2, Curriculum and Instruction Policy Updates. Dr. Edwards.
And we will continue with Ms. Pugh for the CNI updates.
And again, these were presented at the December work session. Most of them had minor changes or either no changes at all. The one that was of significance is IIA, instructional materials, and that was, these changes are a result from Senate Bill 656, as well as IIAB, which is the Supplementary Materials Selection and Adoption Process. And then was presented to you a new regulation, IIA-RZ, and this is the identification and notification regarding sexually explicit instructional materials, and this is the process and procedure for evaluating and communicating these to our families and community. So again, you've had these to review. Are there any questions?
I do have a question.
Go right ahead, Dr. Day.
This is not regarding the appropriateness of the policies. It's just that the IIA and IARZ both refer to information being posted on the district website about listing of sexually explicit materials, and I would presume some explanation of a procedure that a parent would be to follow. I looked and I didn't find that on the website, so I'm just asking, is that still being prepared to be posted on the website?
Yes, yes. They are working on it, and unfortunately, it is sometimes going to be a very daunting task. And so we will get that information up as quickly as possible.
Okay.
We always encourage our parents to reach out to the classroom teacher if they have concerns about materials and or the school principal. And if they've gone that route, then they can certainly reach out to Mr. Coleman, Chief Academic Officer, or myself, and we can certainly walk them through that. But we are working as quickly as possible to get that information on the website.
That's what I expected, but I just wanted to hear it from you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Day. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to.
Dr. Gupta has made the motion, seconded by Dr. Day, that we approve the curriculum and instruction policy updates that are before you tonight with clarity of understanding of the dauntingness of the task and getting things posted where they need to be. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
School Board Member Ms. Preston?
Yes.
School Board Member Mr. Charles?
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Sinha?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dr. Brennan?
Yes.
Chair Dr. Coleman?
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Day?
Yes.
School Board Member Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now go to J3, Governance Policy Updates. Dr. Edwards.
Yep, those are mine, and there are 3 policies, AD, educational philosophy, which is the AD in the typo, gotta change that typo. BBB, which is the student rep, that we did not make changes to, and KMZ, which is up for review. The big change on AD is we added and beyond. We say it a lot, but it's not written, so if we write in and codify the and beyond part of our mission statement.
Which is one word or 2 words, and it's huge.
It's huge.
So that's so powerful. And then as it relates to BBB, at least one of our student reps did attend the workshop in Williamsburg. Am I
I
correct?
don't know, I'm sorry.
Did either of them?
Yes.
Cameron from
Cameron.
class.
Cameron did. So I want to make sure that we commend her for that because that's important. So even though it doesn't appear that there's any changes in BBB after a few years of discussing this, it's just wonderful, the quality of our young people and what they're doing and what they offer. And so enough said on that. Any further comments or we entertain a motion on the governance
I
policy?
move we approve these 3 policies.
The motion has been made by Dr. Day, seconded by Dr. Gupta. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
School Board Member Ms. Preston?
Yes.
School Board Member Mr. Trost?
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Sinha?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dr. Brennan?
Yes.
Chair Dr. Coleman?
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
School Board Member Mr. Day?
Yes.
School Board Member Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And now we move to J4, and this is for discussion regarding our operating budget for FY24, et cetera. Go ahead, Dr. Edwards.
Yep, I'm going to tee it up, and then I'll turn it over to Ms. Kapazi and Dr. Wodeka. First, just a fund balance. Ms. Kapazi will go over fund balance just for the general public as well as the board so that we all have an understanding of what the return of fund balance, how that money is calculated. But what I listed in the board agenda is what you approved on December 6th, just so that we continue with our transparency. This is what we approved. This is what was sent over to City Council. I did get an email from City Manager Bender who said that it will probably be on their January 24th work session and their February board City Council meeting for approval. That is the fund balance, the return of fund balance. That is the number that Ms. Kapazi was talking about, waiting for City Council. Also in this section are the documents that we shared with you during the work session on the budget. We put them again, listed them again just for the general public in case they did not open them from the December meeting. They're in the January meeting, and we will be having conversations about this as well. We are working on a tentative calendar with the city manager so that we can get a timeline for when our budget presentation will happen at City Council. That has not been finalized yet, so that should be coming forth soon so that we have that as well. But we did want to cycle back to just any questions about the operating budget and some clarifications. So I am going to turn it over to Ms. Kapazi and Dr. Wodeka.
Ms. Kapazi, before you go forward, Dr. Data, is your question pertaining?
Just a minor thing. I think when we saw these numbers before, under structural analysis and repair, there was a correction that was Lincoln Middle, not Lincoln Elementary. Is that correct?
That's right, yes, sir.
Oh,
So we need to just make that adjustment.
adjustment on this one, okay, yeah.
Duly noted. Thank you, Dr. Day. All right, Mrs. Kapazi, go right ahead.
Okay, so what Dr. Edwards listed here is that return of fund balance that why I'm not putting in a number yet, because we don't have an answer on that, but that's exactly what Dr. Wodeka presented or requested to the city, and I guess hopefully that January 24th meeting will know something more on that. So I put together this presentation mainly for myself, because I'm new, and as I'm learning and understanding how and why we do things here, the most interesting thing to me was the fact that the return of fund balance to the city, that calculation is nowhere in our financial reports. So it's not like made clear how we came up with that number. So I'm just briefly going to go through this in the interest of time, but the fund balance formula being assets minus liabilities. Is Austin skipping, or do I have to? Okay. Assets minus liabilities is your total fund balance. Next slide. So that whole operating surpluses and deficits, that's the meat and potatoes of the definition that we need to understand. That for our current budget, our revenues minus our expenditures gives us our operating surplus and deficit or deficit. That's a part of fund balance. That is not fund balance alone. Next. So fund balance, obviously GASB 54, such as Chris had said about GASB 87, but back in 2010, they separated fund balance into these 5 different categories. Next. So non-spendable, if you think of that like your school food service, there's inventory, or such as we have that book donation. It's non-spendable. It's inventories, it's endowment trust, things like that. Restricted grant programs, your reserves, they have a specific purpose. Committed is not something that's typical. That is based on board action, and in order to do anything else with that, you have to have formal action again, so that's just not very common. Next. Assigned, that is our annual budget. That's the part of fund balance we say we are assigning it for this purpose. Unassigned is what we are not allowed, because that all goes back to the city. So how is that return of fund balance calculated? So this is the past 5 years. If you just want to look at this year, you see that operating fund balance of July 1. That number is the same number of total reserves from the previous year, because that is the only amount of money that we are allowed to carry forward, is the money that technically is already spent. That the reserve for encumbrances is the goods and services that we purchased in that previous year, but we have not yet paid for them. Either we haven't received them or already ordered those things. So that's why that's carried forward into the following year. The weather reserve, I have to get a little more background on that. I don't know its specific purpose. I would guess weather related, but I don't have anything in black and white. This is just the conversation that, having with the auditor, where she said it was enacted, several years back. So that also gets carried forward because it's funds that are then accessible within the year, but notice it's a reserve, so it is restricted. So then that under total reserves, the revenues and expenditures, that's our annual budget, where we come up with that operating surplus or deficit. So if you take your opening fund balance, then you subtract out your total reserves, then you add back in, hopefully, surplus, your operating surplus, that's the amount of money that gets returned to the city. So that 1.099 that, Dr. Edwards and Dr. Wodeka sent over to the city to claim some of that back, that's the balance sent to the city. If you look at this and you have any question about it, please ask, because, yes?
I'm sorry, I interrupted you mid-sentence.
No, that's okay. I would say because it's not, just as simple as, oh yeah, sure, that makes sense, that's good.
So just a technical correction, I think.
No, I think you're going to tell me from December, or from the 2020 to the 21 is not the same number?
Well, Reed, in an email sometime back, sent me those bottom line numbers as a history, and the one for fiscal year 2020 is different from the number that was in your email.
Yes, these are the audited numbers.
Oh.
Right. So there was from 20 to 21, there was an auditing change. So what Dr. Wodeka probably sent you was the year-end numbers. But then with auditing and several adjusted journal entries and things like that, these numbers are what are from the annual comprehensive financial reports.
Am I wrong?
Let me look.
Okay, you're looking.
Let me look. All right, what is it?
And that would be my guess. I don't know what he sent you either, but that would be my guess is that,
It's
you know.
almost on the level of a typographical correction, so I'm not making a big deal.
But you can see how I said that the total reserves from the previous year is your opening fund balance come July 1. It is not that from 20 to 21, and that's because there was an adjustment made in 21.
Okay.
So when we got to the audit in 21, they said, oh, okay, you should have had opening fund balance of this versus this. I can't tell you off the top of my head why that was, though. Okay, next. Oh, I'm sorry. We did have a question, Doctor?
The opening fund balance adds up to your revenue line, because I'm just trying to add up fiscal year
No,
21.
your opening fund balance is always going to be the same as the total reserves from the previous year. Unless, of course, like I said, an auditing adjustment has been made. But typically, it's going to be just that reserve for encumbrances, because again, that's money that's already spent. We just haven't paid it yet. So we need to carry it over into the new year in order to pay those bills. And the weather reserve is a reserve being held in our pot of money versus the city's pot of money so that we have immediate access to it.
So you got $3.1 million of surplus in 21.
Yes.
And your reserves were $2.4 million.
Yes.
So that means.
Well, you have to take that first opening
I'll add that 1.6.
Right.
So that basically gives you about $700,000.
No, you have to take the 1.6 from the beginning and the 3.1 of the operating surplus, and then subtract out the 2.4.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was going backwards to add 1.6 later on. So it's about 3.7 and 2 points, so 1.3 million. So that's where you came up with?
Again, I'd have to look at the auditing on that because, let me get back to you on that one. And I'll find out exactly why. Any changes, such as that other, has to do with the auditing.
These are the same, but this is. Yeah.
Are you good, Dr. Day?
For now.
Okay, and feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll see if I can explain it better, or it may be something I don't know, because again, I'm new to here also. Okay. Next. So the fund balance limits. Why do we return that money? That is because the Code of Virginia says that we have to. That any of the sums derived from local funds unexpended in any year shall remain a part of the funds of the governing body appropriating the funds. The city appropriates the funds from the Commonwealth. So that's why they go back to the city. Next. So here I'm just saying that we need to look at a surplus budget if we want to be able to afford things. So I'm just giving, and when I say surplus budget, that's not to say that it's not a balanced budget. There's always going to be a balanced budget. Next. So a balanced budget is revenues equals expenditures. I don't want to read this to you. You can read it. Next. Deficit budget means our revenues are under our expenditures. Our expenditures exceed. We cannot do this because otherwise we will just run in the red because we do not have a pot of fund balance that we can tap into other than that weather reserve because, and again, that has specific purposes. So if we're going over on transportation costs, we don't have other money to dip into. So we cannot run a deficit budget. Next. So the surplus budget is where we need to start gearing ourselves and start talking to the city about this, that we have to plan for those one-shot expenses or shortfalls in revenues. Next. So excessively high fund, I'm
So
sorry.
you're saying we need to plan for a surplus to cover those unanticipated
Yes,
things that are
and will that end up in a return of fund balance to the city? Yes, but there's no harm, no foul. If we say, as a just in case, we need to have $10, and we say, oh, there was no just in case, we can give you back $10. There's no harm, no foul, but it's a different way of thinking than what I think the communication has been between the school and the city previously. I think that whole return of fund balance is like, you don't know how to spend the money, and that's not it. That's not the situation.
What's the norm for that kind of return fund balance? Is there like a 1% budget, 5% budget? I mean, other school systems obviously must do this.
As far as how much you would budget for overage in essence in order to have
And
that?
typically across the school systems, school districts in Virginia.
I cannot say that. I don't know, but I can start.
Well, I mean,
asking
I
other
wouldn't.
districts.
I'm just if we're gonna go to city council, it'd be nice to be able to say, listen, you know, it's kind of typical for school systems to have a surplus budget of
Well-
1% or 3%, whatever the number is.
I think if I were to ask that question, because I feel as though the relationship between the counties and the schools and the cities and the schools, from most of the people that, and I just came from a concert? Oh, nice. A conference yesterday and today, and that relationship is almost the same, you know, a little more contested in other places, you know, that they're all going to say, oh, no, I'm putting in for as much revenue as I need just to cover my expenses. Or at least that's what they're telling their city or their county or whatever, because the city or the county doesn't want to hear, we have to plan for just in case. So I don't know that anyone's going to necessarily, but we can, you know, do a little research and look at their books and see what they ended up with at the end of the year.
In that video thing that we looked at, somebody may have asked that question.
I think we did, and this
Go
was.
right ahead, Dr. Brennan.
This was the VSBA budget that Dr. And they said 1.5%
Okay.
of your budget is usually what you should have for your fund balance, somewhere in that range. They have a little
Perfect.
plus. The other point they made was that you really get that fund balance from those unfilled positions, which everybody tends to have. So that's kind of your slush fund, and then you kind of know it's there, and you keep track of it. So I certainly agree with you that we wanted the conversation with city council, but I think that the fact of the matter probably is that they're gonna say that they will pay us what we need, and then we will continue to use that section as where that slush money is. I hope we have some.
So the 1.5% figure is not persuasive. I mean, city council's not gonna hear, hey, it's typical to have a 1.5% budget surplus. They don't care about that.
Well, I think that they understand that there should be some excess, because we do not want to spend all the money, because we can't end up in the red.
Sure.
Right.
In addition to what Ms. Cabosi said, we're all gonna be in jail too. I think it's against the law for us to overspend our budget. So I think, but back when you saw that graph, when it was $5 million.
Right.
That's got their
Very
attention.
strong.
Right,
Yeah,
but I think what we're doing now, currently, what we're submitting, I would assume, and we'll see what city council says, that's probably reasonable. You want to have.
Well, when you take into consideration the $285,000 that we had remaining at the end of this budget season, included the fact that we did $800,000 in that health insurance, you know, money that we were in the red. So technically, we did at least we were able to. If it wasn't intentional budgeting that way, we were able to cover that.
Right.
So, but I know, like right now, this year, we have legal expenses that are more than we anticipated. We have transportation expenses that were more than we anticipated. It's another big one that it's not coming to mind right now, but we have several expenses that were just more than we anticipated. So rather than, if we create the budget, knowing where there's a little excess to work with, we don't have to try and find it within the budget. We know where it's at.
Dr. Gupta?
I just want to make sure that the fulfilling of positions is not a designed model. So it's not a slush fund. Slush fund is designed, you know that you can dip into that. So that's because you're not able to fill those positions, even working hard and harder each year, right?
Right. I would agree. I mean, SOQ tells us we only need this many positions, and then, of course, we definitely exceed that as far as, support positions and everything else. And yes, if we're saying these are the positions that we need, then these are the positions that we need. We're unable to fill them, so we know we can tap into that a little bit, but hopefully, if we fill all positions, we don't have that. However, I will say health insurance is one, because we do have to plan for if Dr. Wodka gets married tomorrow and goes on a family plan. That's a qualifying event.
Congratulations. How big a concern is that tonight?
Look how red he's getting.
His facial expressions tell us not to worry about that.
All right, everybody, that was a great piece. Dr. Gupta, had you finished with your?
I'll ask you later.
All right, and what I would like.
His marriage thing has taken my mind.
If the board members, if the chair would be allowed, Ms. Kapanta, can you go ahead and complete your report? And if you have a question or comment that is just critical for tonight, I know some of you all have other things, and do want us to move right along. Go right ahead, Ms. Capazzi.
Okay, so excessively high fund balance normally caused by the number one is poor budget practices. We need to take a look at it so we don't end up with the 5 million return. If we're shooting for 1.5, then that's what we're shooting for. Next. Excessively low, ending up in that deficit, again, is poor budget practices is the number one. And the thing with that low fund balance, such as Dr. Brennan was saying, we cannot do that. It is against Virginia code for not to appropriate the amount of money that we need. And because we're tied into the city, if we can't cover our bills, that could put the city in a bad spot as far as short-term borrowing and whatever, and it's just not a place that we want to be or subject that on the city. Next. How to manage excessively high fund balance, and this is just how to manage surplus revenues, really. Those one-shot expenditures, reducing debt principal, financing reserve funds, or offsetting underestimated expenses or revenue shortfalls, which is our number one thing right now. Next. Just a definition of the one-shot expenditures: equipment, capital outlay, flooding repairs. That was the other big thing. Next. Reducing debt principal. This is definitely something we would have to talk to the city about. Not all, because everything relative to this goes through the city, and not a lot of your debt can be paid ahead of time. So it's something that we would have to confirm with the city. Next, financing reserve funds. As you've seen, the capital improvement reserve, the health insurance reserve, and then that weather reserve. I do anticipate, going to look up more as far as the contingent reserves that we actually keep for ourselves, what that difference is and what we're allowed to do. Next. As I just said, this is definitely, our one shot or underestimated expenses right now. Next. So a fund balance policy, such as you just brought up from VSBA, if we can start the conversation to come up with a fund balance policy that, tells us what do we want to do? Is it 1.5%? Is it, and, it's not something that we'll do overnight, but it's definitely something that I think we should start the discussion on. Next. So this is just what they should be, and it's exactly how you, conduct and approve your policy making now, so there's no change to that. Next. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Mr. Capazzi. Any other questions from members of the board? Dr. Brennan.
So I'd just like to make a general comment and also maybe apologize to Dr. Sinha, because this topic, I think, sort of came up because in our pre-agenda prep, we talked about the fund balance and other things, and I think this was added, and I did not want the board to be tortured by this question that I'd raised, so I appreciate you all doing it.
Dr. Day just said he thought this was made for him.
Yeah.
I think it's a general,
No,
everybody.
and we had a conversation yesterday, which you said that, which I appreciate, and I think that that's very helpful.
Excellent.
And the other thing I just want to point out too, which we also mentioned yesterday, that in the documents that we received in the work session, part of that, and it's actually when you get a chance to look at like page 22, is one of the other things that we've talked about that I'm not familiar with seeing before, which is our proposed budget for last year and our actual budget for last year. So it actually shows us what we said the budget was going to be, but for the first time we're actually seeing how the expenditures worked. And out of that, when you look at that, you can see that the fund balance ends up being that bottom line, or is that number is part of that. So I just want to thank Ms. Capozzi and Dr. Woodica for presenting all this information, including budget from last year with comparisons, which we've never, since I've been on the board for 6 years, we've never seen before. But thank you all very much, and I apologize if I overstepped my bounds. Dr. Sinha.
All right, Dr. Gupta.
Ms. Capozzi, maybe the auditor mentioned only one line was 1% over, rest were under. You know which line?
It was the maintenance benefits. If you look at the end of that letter, it has the adjusting journal entries. It was one of the maintenance benefits ones, and it was a, was it $40,000?
1% over.
Yeah, and the thing is, when that expense was taken out, they looked at the entire account code, not just that one line, and then within that entire account code, because capital gets pulled out, that's what made it go negative.
All right. Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Capazzi, for that information. Dr. Edwards, anything else?
Yeah, just that. I think tonight at City Council, the city manager is presenting the fund balance.
Sure.
Fund balance, oh my goodness.
Formula.
Funding formula which we received a copy of earlier this week. I also put that on the agenda for the Finance Committee that's going to meet next week so that they can review that and talk about it as well.
All right, thank you, Dr. Edwards, and thank you, Mrs. Capazzi. We'll now move into K, new business. First item is the middle school program of studies, and we've dispatched of the high school program. Now it's middle school, and if you could call on our distinguished presenter.
Okay, so middle school program of studies, we have Mr. Coleman coming up to present for middle school.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. Good evening to the board. You have before you the middle school program of studies. You've had an opportunity to review. I did not receive any questions prior to the meeting, but if there are questions, I'm willing to take those now. If I cannot answer those at this time, I'll be sure to follow up with responses to your inquiries. The program of studies document that you have before you has very minimal changes pertaining to, or compared to what the program of studies document looked like that you approved last year. So at this time, if there are questions or remarks, I'll take those.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Charles? Mr. Charles, and then Dr. Day.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. The mascot block, I saw that. It's a new ad. Is that could you just give me a little bit of an understanding of what that is?
Yep, so it's essentially an enrichment opportunity in short term.
And is that, is it a specific class, such as like a study hall, or, I'm just trying to get understanding.
Yeah, and we put the name, so it was called different things at different schools. So it's also to align what we call it. And so essentially it is an opportunity for students to get enrichment. I hesitate to use the term study hall because that has less structure in it. This has more structure in it than what a typical study hall would.
And I'm assuming we can utilize that maybe to help capture some of the learning loss that we've experienced.
That's absolutely right.
Excellent. Great ad. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. Dr. Day?
That was my question, too.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Dr. Brennan?
So just one brief comment, and I'm looking maybe to Dr. Edwards for this, is that since our educational philosophy is now every child by name and by need to graduation and beyond, should we add that to this title of this little curriculum?
We're going to have to be redoing a whole bunch of things.
There you go.
But yes, since that did get approved, we can update this.
But I have no other questions or comments. Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Dr. Brennan, and that is, as you said, it's a daunting task to update all of this. We're certainly going to get to it. And thank you, Mr. Coleman, for the presentation. I do know that I had, Dr. Carter's not here, but Dr. Edwards, these lab school pieces are going to, at some point, be coming alongside of us to equal out what we do at the elementary schools for our middle school program of studies and effort.
Yeah, the lab schools are now, we've done a lot of work on our end. They're in the hands of the colleges and universities. So CVCC has one, and University of Lynchburg has the elementary version of it. So we are waiting.
Very good. Dr. Gupta?
I'm going to make a motion to make it an action item.
All right, go on, Dr. Gupta. All right, is there a second to that motion?
The motion is
If
to
it
approve.
doesn't get a second, it
Yes,
fails.
second.
Is there a second to the motion?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you, Dr. Day. All right, Dr. Brennan, did you have something you
No,
wanted
I was
to
going
say?
to
All
suggest
right.
the same thing.
All right, are there any further questions or discussion that tonight we will approve the middle school program of studies presented to us by Mr. Coleman? Any further questions or discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll to approve the middle school program of studies tonight.
School Board Member, Ms. Preston?
Yes.
School Board Member, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
School Board Member, Dr. Sinha?
Yes.
Vice Chair, Brennan?
Yes.
Chair, Dr. Coleman?
Yes.
School Board Member, Dr. Gupta?
Yes, I'm assuming you're making a motion to make it an action item, and then, that's fine.
School Board.
Oh, wait, hold it. I always like to be clear. I thought we were doing everything at one time.
Right.
Typically, if there's no objection to us moving quickly to dispatch of something tonight, we don't necessarily
That's fine.
do two things. So I just want to make it clear as we continue to vote, we're actually voting because there was no objection to make this an action item tonight.
To
approve
To
it.
approve
Motion
it,
is
to
to
approve it
approve.
tonight. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you, Dr. Edwards. All right. Thank you, Dr. Gupta.
Yes.
Dr. Day?
Do we give the people who voted before your clarification the opportunity to
I have no problem with that. With that point of clarification, is anybody wanting to do two different votes? Go right ahead, Dr. Day.
I vote yes.
School Board Member, Mr. Andrews. Yes. Motion carries.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Gupta, for that motion. Mr. Coleman, thank you for your work.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. K2, hiring updates for the school year 2024. Dr. Edwards.
Yes, so we wanted to take the opportunity to bring members of our HR team. We have Director Scott and oh my God, why am I drawing a blank? Victoria. Thank you, Ms. Watts, our Senior Talent Acquisition Specialist, here to talk a little bit about some upcoming hiring things that we are going to do as we get out there and nab all the qualified staff to join LCS.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. Good evening, board. We're excited to share update with you all with our hiring initiative for school year 23-24. We actually started early this year with the launch of our 2023-2024 application that took live. It went live right before winter break. New this year, we will have our internal career fair, which will aid in our retention of our current employees who wish to consider other positions within the school division. So that's new. We also have teacher interview days. The purpose of the teacher interview days is to hire as many top candidates as soon as possible to help serve our students. Also, we will continue our annual education career fair, which will take place on Saturday, February the 25th at Heritage High School. Similar to what we did last year, we also, during our fair, we had interviews. We also hired some people that day as well. The career fair is open to the public and is for instructional positions and non-instructional positions as well. Okay. You also should have before you a flyer, so please share this flyer. And now I'm going to turn it over to Victoria, and she will share an update on our college and university campus recruitment.
All right, so before you, what you see is a highlight of the college and university campuses that we'll be visiting this spring. And we also want to highlight that this ties into the Strategic Plan Goal 2.2, which is talking about our recruitment and retention initiatives. And what I'd just like to highlight here is that we're continuing to re-energize our partnerships with CBCC and the University of Lynchburg. As you can see that they are on this list as well. So with this initiative for our college campuses and universities, we have also scheduled to attend our HBCUs. We currently have 4 in the state of Virginia. We're registered for 2, waitlisted for 1, and the last does not currently have an event. So this is just a high-level overview of some of the places that not only our human resources team will be visiting, but also we're encouraging our administrative team and our directors across Lynchburg City Schools to join us because they also bring a unique perspective to this effort. So we're excited to continue expanding that recruiting effort. Also important to note here, the Virginia universities and colleges reflected, they all have VDOE approved teacher education preparation programs.
And I like this. This is a reflection of a lot of good work over the years to get into this point. The diversity of recruiting efforts is clearly there, et cetera. So thank you all. Thank you very, very much. Any questions from the board for Director Scott or? All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for doing the work. All right, we're now at our section L, the superintendent comments.
Yes, so first, let me just say thank you to Lynchburg Middle School, who surprised me with the birthday gift of a wonderful sweatshirt, which I will be wearing, and also a beautiful coffee mug as well. So
Coffee mug.
Yeah, yeah, it's very, very sweet. I appreciate it. So thank you, Lincoln, for doing that for my birthday tomorrow. It's a nice start. Quick updates of some things. Just in December, since we've last met, we did have another kindergarten kickstart event at the VUL. So that was a nice one. Again, I think we had some more kids that were registered that evening for kindergarten. So if you haven't gotten your kindergartner registered, please do so. We had our winter luncheon here for our admin staff. We had an awesome legislative breakfast, so thank you to Dr. Carter's not here, but thank you to her and her team and our clerk and the rest of you for making that happen, as well as our students and staff who provided excellent music and food for us.
The bacon was delicious.
Yes, it was. A couple bike presentations that I got to attend, one at Bass Elementary School right before break. And again, that's One Community, One Voice that is partnering with us to celebrate our staff. Kicked off the new year. You all know what happened over break. We don't have to rehash all that fun. Kicked off the new year with just welcoming our new city council representatives, leaders, as well as having lunch with council member Mischins, and I have breakfast scheduled with the mayor coming up and some time with Delegate Walker. He is also on my calendar, as well as reaching out to others still to be scheduled so that we can continue our partnership with the city and our delegates as we move forward. As you said, Dr. Coleman, I am going to attend the conference at the end of the month. I do want to just one more time give another shout out to Dr. Jordan, who is the pastor at West Lynchburg Baptist Church. I happened to be on their website today, and I noticed that he had a sign up, actually printed it, and it says, "Welcome and serve T.C. Miller," and what he was asking his congregation to do, which I thought was wonderful, and I don't know if anybody knew about it, but you could sign up to bring snacks to the teacher break room or lunch, or serve as security and crossing guards for the park with our kids. They were there in the morning helping get kids out of cars in a car rider line. Just a wonderful partnership, and just small things like this that mean a lot to our staff. So I just wanted to publicly one more time just say thank you to Pastor and his church for their amazing partnership with us, and just the quick turnaround time. And we know the importance of in-person learning, and they were so accommodating in allowing us to set up the place so that it was a learning environment that was non-religious in the rooms where our kids are. So they were very accommodating for any of our families that wondered about that. And I also today met the new executive director, Deborah Smith, from the Jones Memorial Library, and we're looking to do some great work with them as well. So it's been a wonderful week back with partners and partnerships, and we're going to continue to do that good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards, and again, happy birthday to you. Before we go into the board comments, I really appreciate you lifting up the pastor of West Lynchburg Baptist Church. They previously enjoyed a rich relationship with us in so many ways, and when the new pastor came on board, he really wanted to find ways to get connected. And really wanted to. And there are a lot of people out there that really want to, and it may not happen right away. But now to see that he is engaged at this level in providing this type of meaningful, robust impact on our kids is huge. And so the more that happens, the more our kids win. Dr. Gupta?
What is pastor's name? Nobody has.
Chris Jordan.
Chris Jordan, a wonderful man, he and his wife. Yeah. All right, thank you, Dr. Gupta. We're going to do board comments now and start with Mr. Andrews.
Kudos to the kids that presented tonight. That takes a lot of courage to be in this room. So they did an amazing job. And then, of course, thank you, your staff for all the work they did over the holiday break, repairing the schools and busted pipes and that sort of stuff. That's actually pretty amazing. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Dr. Day.
How are we doing for time? I have several things I wanted to say, but I could postpone them if you feel we're pressed for time.
Dr. Day, we want to hear what you have to say, and I know you know how to give it to us as quickly as you can.
Okay.
It means postpone some.
All right. So 3 things. At our last work session, we were given a folder with lots of documents with data and stuff pertinent to the budget process that we're beginning. In that folder, there were 2 of the documents that tried to forecast enrollment levels through the end of this decade. One was from Cropper GIS, which was or is part of the facilities study, and the other was from the Weldon Cooper Center at UVA. And just in my effort to digest all that information, I've been sort of chewing on those numbers. And I noticed, I wrote to Dr. Edwards about this, that the Cooper GIS numbers forecast a very regular annual increase of about 50 to 60 elementary school students per year starting in 2026. If you graph their numbers, they just start climbing like almost a straight line. And the estimates from UVA do not do that. So Dr. Edwards referred me to a work session last April where those numbers were presented to last year's board. There was some discussion about it then, and I read through the full document that contained those numbers looking for an explanation, and I didn't find one. All the verbal discussion, all the written discussion in that document kept saying about enrollment decline, enrollment decline, enrollment decline, and yet the numbers do something completely different. So what I want to communicate to you without going into further details is that I think we have to be pretty careful in interpreting those numbers. It's not real clear to me what we really can expect over the next decade. But for what it's worth, those Cropper GIS numbers seem to indicate that most of the decline at the elementary level has already happened, but is going to continue to hit us at the middle and high school levels over the years ahead. Now, again, that's based on these numbers that I have some questions about. And the other thing I'd note that as we chew on those numbers, that both of those studies were done with using historical data only through the 2019 school year. So some time has passed and an epidemic has passed, so I'm just giving us lots of grains of salt to throw on those numbers when we think about them. Second, we were all given copies of this book, which I have been slowly working my way through. You can see where my bookmark is. I'm not quite done yet.
Very good.
And what I wanted to say about that is that that book describes lots of different non-traditional approaches that schools across the country have tried. The point I want to make here is that if we want to try any of the ideas we see in there, or maybe other non-traditional approaches to things, I think we have an opportunity because we are changing principles at Easy Glass. So a sort of pie-in-the-sky idea that I'd like to throw out for you to think about is, what if we took one of our two high schools and, with the advent of a new principal, tried to use some kind of a non-traditional model and left the other high school in the traditional mode? Right now, our two high schools are pretty much offering the same things at the same level. There's some differences, but we could, if we wanted to pursue this, use the opportunity of bringing in a new principal to bring in someone who would be committed to trying something a little bit new and different. I'm not saying we should. I'm not saying what it should consist of. I'm just saying the hiring of a new principal is a convenient time to do that if we wanted to. So I'm just throwing that thought out to you. I do not mean to imply any criticism of Principal Flower, who's leaving, or suggest that she's done anything less than a great job. I'm just saying a change that we are going to encounter, that would be an opportune time to try something different if we wanted to. And then the last thing, and I think this connects to the mental health grant that Dr. Brown was telling us about. As we think about our physical facilities, particularly excess capacity at some of the elementary schools that the facilities study kind of pointed out a little bit, we might contemplate the possibility of converting one of the elementary schools to a second Fort Hill-like alternative facility, because Fort Hill is maxed out, and as the numbers in Derek's chart here show, we have a tremendous need to serve the students that don't fit in the standard facility. So that's just another thing to think about. Maybe that's something that we can do as we think about what are we going to do with our facilities down the road. Maybe that's something to talk about with that team of folks who's going to be here. And I've said before, I think getting a handle on the students who are having behavioral problems is important to all the students, and it will affect the SOL numbers, the performance across the board. So it's just one idea to think about as we move forward. That's the end of my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Day. Very pertinent thoughts and reflections. Thank you for sharing them. Dr. Gupta.
I'll postpone mine for next meeting.
If you change your mind, we'll come back to you, Dr. Gupta. Dr. Brennan.
I'd like to do two comments, hopefully very briefly. One is that time flies quickly, and was just back in December, we were cheering on our high school football teams. And I just want to comment, as I think we all know, that Heritage High School made it to the final state championship, and the EC Glass made it to the semifinals. I think both coaches were actually awarded Coach of the Year for their divisions, which is pretty phenomenal. We had multiple players on both teams that got first team recognition by the state. Dr. Coleman and I had talked to Dr. Edwards about maybe trying to have an event in some way for those teams that the school board could show their appreciation for them. And a little beyond that, we talked about maybe actually not just doing it for athletics, but doing it for academics, doing it for extracurricular activities, but something where quarterly or on some basis we say this is important to recognize these kids. But I think those two teams really should be recognized. I know the board feels the same way. On a more somber note, I think we all saw the fact that the City Council is going to discuss a resolution to make Lynchburg a Second Amendment sanctuary. And it just reminded me that back in October, the American College of Pediatrics released a policy statement. And in that statement, they pointed out that currently, each day in the United States, 28 children and teens, or equivalent of a high school class, die from gun violence, making it the #1 killer of youth in the United States. And then in 2022, there were 55 school shootings, which was the most school shootings we've had in 5 years. And we all know what happened last week in Newport News, which was just so tragic. So we all know that the answer to gun violence is multi-layered, difficult, a lot of different aspects of it, but I just hope as our city council looks at the fact of bearing guns, that they'll also look at ways we can keep our children safer in our community and our schools, because I think it's just so important that we all work together to do that. Thank you, Dr. Coleman.
Thank you, Dr. Brennan, for your insights. Thank you very much. Dr. Sinha.
No comments.
Thank you for your work. Mr. Trost.
I like Dr. Day's ideas. I think it's a shake-up. It's worth looking at. Outstanding. I, too, want to recognize the West Lynchburg Baptist Church. Wow. Talk about, and we have other organizations, other churches that would step up and do the same thing. And personally, I want to thank West Lynchburg Baptist Church, Dr. Jordan, and then the other opportunities that may present themselves, other organizations willing to step up. And finally, this past December, we lost a very good teacher, one of my former teachers, Miss Peggy Myers from EC Glass. I just want to recognize her for her family, thank her family. She's always a dedicated teacher. She taught me and was there, and we're going to miss her and wish her family the best.
Thank you, Mr. Trost. All right, Ms. Preston.
Just thank you for all that you do to serve our children. I think some of the comments that we've heard indicate that we don't all necessarily agree on how to do things or what things we need to do. But as long as we can remain civil and at least listen to each other and each other's opinions, we can arrive at a place that will work for most of us and will benefit our children.
Well said, Ms. Preston. I do want to just acknowledge that Men to School, January the 17th, starting with the high schools and moving right along, will be encouraging kids in honor of King, not mentioning King, but just to get the work done to encourage kids to go back and do well in the third quarter. And we're encouraging any of you that would like to participate to please do so. It's always been meaningful. And then at the Jubilee Center, once that's over, we will go over for a little repass and hear from whomever Dr. Edwards, Dr. Reeves, Director Reeves give permission to come and help us to appreciate how we can volunteer and get involved in making a difference in the lives of our students throughout the third and fourth quarter of the year. All right, you have before you in Section N all of the informational items, 1 through 5, and of course you can govern yourselves accordingly with each of those pertaining to the work of this board over those days referenced. And that moves us to Section O, and that suggests that according to the Code of Virginia, pursuant thereof, Section 2.2-3711A, the school board needs to convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following specific matter: superintendent's evaluation. Is there a motion for us to go into a brief closed meeting for this purpose?
That's a move.
Been moved by Dr. Brennan. Is there a second?
I see.
Seconded by Mr. Trost. Any further questions or discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
School Board Member, Ms. Preston?
Yes.
School Board Member, Mr. Trost?
Yes.
School Board Member, Dr. Sinha?
Yes.
Vice Chair, Dr. Brennan?
Yes.
Chair, Dr. Coleman?
Yes.
School Board Member, Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
School Board Member, Dr. Day?
Yes.
School Board Member, Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, all of you. Thanks, staff. Thank you for the great work you're doing. We'll just take a minute or so to move, and then this won't take long at all. Happy birthday again, Dr. Edwards.